Okay, we are reconvened from closed session. We do not have a report out this evening. Are there any deletions or corrections to the agenda?
There are not.
Okay, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started with our employee organizations. Do we have Ms. Jensen? Yes, there she is. Okay.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the school board, Superintendent Critchfield, cabinet, colleagues, and community members. You're so sweet. Thank you for this opportunity to speak on behalf of the Amador County Teachers Association, ACTA. Tonight, you will be presented with why there is no money in the budget to address the unprecedented health care crisis in the Amador County schools, suggesting to you that the employees' need for affordable health care and a livable wage just isn't reasonable. It is reasonable to expect that this weighs heavy on you, that you feel stuck between the district's financial worries and the employees' personal emergencies. We appreciate that. But this is the time for a Herculean response. It is reasonable to expect that this weighs heavy on district leadership. We appreciate that. But this still is the time for a Herculean response. It is reasonable to expect the district to see this as a crisis and apply crisis management to this issue, including, but not limited to, prioritizing funds to keep employees solvent. As I prioritized Amador County Unified School District when we gave up the days in the early 2000s. It is reasonable to work for students, to work for families, to work for the betterment of our community. That's what we do. It is reasonable to think that $20,000 toward the health cap for families is a lot of money. It is also reasonable to do the math and determine that the $20,000 contribution still costs a person 2/3 of their take-home pay. It is reasonable to expect to go to your local hospital and not be charged an out-of-network charge. It is reasonable to keep the doctor you are currently working with in your personal health care battles. It is reasonable to offer funds for families who had to parcel out their children's and partners' health care because what the district offers is too expensive. It is reasonable to expect the district to see this as a crisis and apply crisis management to this issue, including but not limited to prioritizing funds to keep employees solvent, as we prioritized Amador County Unified School District in the early 2000s. The answer to this issue does not come from the heart. It comes from prioritizing budgetary spending. It comes from meeting with employees to come to the table with an offer that pays for both health care and their bills. We just heard that the district has denied impasse, which leaves employees wondering, where is the priority here? It is not reasonable to hear the following response to a question. It looks like I'm going to be $1,000 short. How will we deal with that? The response is, we will invoice you. It is not reasonable to owe money to your employer at the end of the month. It is not reasonable to have district health care cost, I'm getting it. I don't have my water bottle this time. Take a pen. It is not reasonable to have district health care cost so much that one has to choose the other health care options for their family, then not be given funds to pay for those bills. It is not reasonable to consider our offer as a money grab. We're just trying to find a way to pay the bills. Thank you, yes. It is not unreasonable to expect you would prioritize the relationship with the educators and support staff. Tomorrow is the last day to sign up for health care. People were signing with the belief that the district would continue to work with their unions to find a way for educators and support staff to stay here and thrive in the community that we love and the people we love to serve. I do not know how to say this. Oh, this part's really hard for me. I do not know how to say this without sounding hostile or threatening, but that is not my intention. That is not my intention. I'm just looking to the future. We have had a qualified budget for 2 years now and anticipate being less likely to meet the 3% reserve required by the state of California this year. So let's pretend we are taken over by the state. The priority would be the essential employees. Educators and support staff are the essential employees. Unfortunately, there would be no school board. Unfortunately, there would be major cuts in the district office leadership and staff. Unfortunately, it's highly likely sports would not be considered essential. I do not paint this picture in order to make it real. I do not paint this picture in order to threaten. I do not paint this picture asking you to anticipate I do paint this picture asking you to anticipate and address it before it happens. The need to meet essential employees' basic needs to work here, including a livable wage and insurance that doesn't take all of the paycheck so that one is given an invoice. To expect the district to look back in history to expect the district to look back in history to when employees gave up days in order to keep the school solvent, the same is expected of the district to solve this health care issue.
Okay, Mr. Baird.
Okay. Hey guys, cabinet. Health benefits. I decided to look up in the dictionary what benefit means. An advantage or profit gained from something. There's no advantage to watching your paycheck dissolve in front of your face. There's no profit gained from that either. The second one is a payment or gift made by an employer, the state, or an insurance company. Welfare benefits, it wrote that. The third one is receive an advantage or a profit. There's no advantage to taking a subpar health coverage that won't allow you to go to your doctor or stay in your town. Having some people have to drive to Folsom, Roseville, Stockton. That's not an advantage. That's a disadvantage. So I think we need to really think about what we're trying to tell our workers and our teachers about where they fit on the priority list. And it feels like year after year, we're at the very end of the line. And we, like Jeannie said, have sacrificed over the years for the district. And it's our turn to be prioritized first. In order to build a big, strong building, that base has to be solid. We are the base. So if we want this district to fix those educational numbers or get our students to a level where they're flourishing, it starts with us. The teachers, the bus drivers, the people who provide food, aides, clean the classroom. We can't have these kids here without us. And from talking to other members and all of our meetings, and it feels like we're gonna lose a lot of people. And I just don't know how that helps our students at the end of the day. So when they go over these financials with you, dig deep, ask these questions. It's very vague. It's very general. Stuff like,
I looked at it today. It's stuff like services. Well, what does that mean? And are there any alternatives? And you got to dig deep because we got to find the money because we got to take care of these people. We do. Thank you.
Okay. Next up, we're going to do public comments on non-agenda items. I do have items for non-agendized, and then I also have items on the agenda. So I'm going to read the little blurb. A person wishing to be heard by the board shall first be recognized by the president and shall then proceed to comment as briefly as the subject permits. Individual speakers shall be allowed 3 minutes to address the board on non-agenda items. The board shall limit the total time for public input on each item to 20 minutes. With board consent, the board president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public presentation depending on the topic and the number of persons wishing to be heard. The president may take a poll of speakers for or against a particular issue and may ask that additional persons speak only if they have something new to add. We are going to be sticking to the 20 minutes tonight. We have a lot to discuss. We have 20 minutes for non-agenda items, and we will have 20 minutes for on the agenda items. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. Our first speaker will be Michael Garcia.
Good evening, trustees, cabinet members, and Superintendent Critchfield. Before I begin, I want to acknowledge my comments at the last meeting. I allowed my frustration to affect my delivery, and for that I apologize. Tonight I am committed to keeping my remarks constructive and focused on solutions. As you review the district's financial presentation, I'd like to raise several points for consideration. Financial transparency. First, I've heard mention of something called a concrete fund in relation to consolidation. If such a fund exists, could it be considered as a potential resource in addressing the district's ongoing healthcare crisis? Transparency in how all dollars are evaluated is critical. Second, regarding cost of living adjustments. Out of the last 11 COLAs received, staff have only received a portion of 6. That raises the question, why is the COLA not consistently passed along, at least in part, to the employees? Other employers in the community, including the casino, ensure that staff at the top of the pay scale still receive annual COLAs. Why not our district? Employee experience. During open enrollment, my interaction with the representative assisting me was polite, but it was clear that they were not comfortable navigating the technology. I found myself guiding them through the process. For employees making significant decisions about health coverage, this lack of confidence from the district's partner is concerning and does little to reassure employees making critical decisions for their families. Additionally, data presented on enrollment trends may be misleading. Some employees with families have been forced to split coverage because they cannot afford the family plan. This makes it appear as though more employees are choosing single coverage when in reality it reflects financial strain, not preference. I'd also like to address a recent decision regarding lunch detention at Argonaut. With teachers currently working to rule and stepping back from extra duties, it was disheartening to hear that classrooms would still be used for detentions, with teachers simply expected to vacate their rooms. This understandably caused frustration as it diminished the value of time teachers had previously volunteered. It also highlighted the lack of a true staff break space at Argonaut, which only added to concern. Fortunately, after discussions with Mr. DeWalt, a practical solution was reached to move detention to the gym foyer, just as it was years ago. This example shows that when the district listens and works with staff, problems can be solved efficiently. Finally, I want to ask about the recent delisting of 3 unfilled positions. Does this signal the possibility of future layoffs? If so, I hope the district will be transparent with staff and the community about the reasons behind such decisions, rather than placing blame on fair requests. Let me be clear. Teachers do not want to negatively impact students. None of us choose this profession for wealth. We are here because we believe in making a difference in students' lives and preparing them for success. But we cannot do that if we are constantly worrying about how to pay our bills or put food on the table. I urge the board to consider these questions carefully. Our staff want to participate with you in finding solutions. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have Kurt Moko. Is that how you say it? I think I did it. Okay.
Good evening, board, district. My name is Kurt Moko, and while these are my comments, they're frankly gathered from coworkers and it's really their speech that I'm delivering. I stand here tonight because of the way you've chosen to bargain with us is nothing short of disrespectful. Every stall, every dismissal of our proposals, every lowball offer sends a clear message that the people who teach, guide, and care for the district students are not valued. I feel like the district did not hear the scores of personal stories last month's board meeting, many of which brought me to tears. Let me say as clearly as possible, we want a fair proposal for families, singles, and opt-outs. Taking money from one group and giving it to another is not fair, nor in the district's long-term health. The message that I heard from my peers is we are united, we do not want to fight, but we're up for it if you're ready. We give everything we have to this work. We show up early, we stay late, we take work home, we do it because we believe in kids. However, when you use tactics that minimize our worth, that ignore our sacrifices, that pit dollars against dignity, you are telling us that our commitment doesn't matter. We are not asking for luxuries. We are demanding fairness. We are demanding respect. The students in this district succeed because teachers and staff show up for them every single day. Yet the way you bargain showed that you do not care as us as partners only as to be managed, and that's unacceptable. If I were in charge of bargaining, we'd bargain every single day until we made an agreement. Let me be clear, when you disrespect us, you disrespect our students and this community. You cannot claim to put students first while treating the very people who educate them as if we were disposable. We will not stand quietly while our voices are ignored. We are united, we are determined, and we will continue to demand the respect we deserve. It is time for you to bargain in good faith, with honesty, with transparency, and recognize our value. And prove with your actions, not just your words, that you respect the people who make this district work. Thank you for your time.
Next up, we have Greg Wall. Greg Wall is next.
Good evening. My name is Greg Wall. I teach at Amador High School. I begin by acknowledging the board is in a difficult position on whose word to trust on matters of spending and the budget. I hope to leave you with a perspective you take seriously and to use when you receive competing viewpoints. There is a state agency, the Financial Crisis Management Assistance Team, that has reviewed the district's fiscal practices over a number of years. In 2019, the FCMAT report gave a moderate rating for the danger of fiscal insolvency. The report you just received this summer moved that danger to severe. I am not privy to all the details, but everyday staff has seen the writing on the wall for years and were never taken seriously. For example, the collective wisdom of Carla Ohm, Jeannie Jensen, Deanna Bell could have been utilized about the unwise deficit spending in this district. Over 2 years ago, several ACTA members met with the CFO and shared how freaked out we felt about the shocking fiscal habits displayed in the budget. I haven't seen any impact due to this interaction, but at the same time, the district received COLA increases to ongoing LCFF monies. For example, ACUSD has seen a 46% increase of these funds over the past 12 years, which has meant millions and millions of dollars year in and year out. Unfortunately, ACTA has only been provided a raise for 6.5 of those years, which account for a small percent of the overall budget increases. So, the district worsened their financial standing for many reasons, but teacher salaries is not one. Instead, ACTA had to negotiate, went to mediation, and were stonewalled to get that fraction of the COLAs given by the state year in and year out. Another example is the 8.22% COLA increase that was on top of the over $30 million of 2023 LCFF funding. Teachers lost an entire year of that money because of how the district chose to bargain. We finally received 4.75%, but please remember that increase is only on a teacher salary that averages $61,000. Sadly, the district has not given a fair pay raise, for nearly 2 decades. The reason I can say this is because we are still 8.11% below the rate of inflation for a comparable salary. I started keeping records in 2008 because of the financial crisis of that era. The district was in real danger at that point too, and ACTA responded as good partners by giving back to the district part of her salary for 2 years to deal with the fiscal problems not of their own making. We have never been made whole since, though the district's budget has nearly doubled, rising to over $60 million. Yet the teachers have never been prioritized. I can say that because the district has paid over $116,000 in fines for having too many administrators in comparison to the number of teachers for the past 2 years. My time is short, so let me finish with the plea. Reprioritize the budget, stop deficit spending, demand better pay scales.
Next up, we have Patricia and Gija.
Good evening, everyone. So I want to address the ongoing healthcare crisis that we are in. So I tried to get numbers because I'm a numbers person, and I reached out to the HR analysts because I've been told that the HR director is not very pleasant to work with from the allegations of retaliation from many teachers and staff members that I've heard. And instead of simply sending me a rough estimate, I reached out initially on September 4th. Lisa Yarborough, HR analyst, was very quick to respond, and I appreciate that. She forwarded to payroll. I followed up on September 10th, and then I followed up on September 12th again with Lisa saying, I've never heard back from anyone. She then forwarded it quickly to Mr. Norton, and then immediately that afternoon, I got a letter from Lozano Smith, one of the many lawyers that the district contracts with, saying that my request is pretty much too vague in trying to get, all I was simply asking for was how many employees, just a rough estimate, are on each plan currently. I don't need names, I don't need social security numbers, I don't need, any private information. And was met with this lawyer letter that I'm sure costs money for the district. And so far for fiscal year 24-25, Lozano Smith by itself has cost the district $232,462.82. That's just one of the law firms that they contract with. So instead of just giving me vague numbers so I can do a comparison of current healthcare plan to the new healthcare plan of how much maybe the district could come up with to help subsidize the amount that we're expecting the teachers to bear, I'm just met with a lawyer letter. So I put it into ChatGPT because I am a full-time employee. I have kids, I have a house to maintain. I don't have time to do all of this, but I have. I made a more clear response of what I'm asking for. Still haven't heard back, so I'm not unfortunately able to share how much I think the district should be able to come up with to help offset that amount. But I do think that I am tired, and I'm sure you all are all tired of constantly having different crises in this district. Healthcare, deficit spending, transportation, maintenance issues, my son's classroom being infested with fleas, my daughter not being able to play on her playground because now magically it's not safe for TK, even though it was supposedly last year when she was in TK. I'm sure that'll open us up to lots of lawsuits. And I'm sorry, but I don't think the superintendent should be making $250,000 when the teachers are being asked to bear this expense. The teachers say they're not in it to get rich, and neither should the administrators. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, We are moving on to our item 11. We only have one on the agenda. It's a discussion item, the budget information. We do have speaker cards here. So we will go ahead and start with the on the agenda cards with Deanna Bell.
Good evening. I'm Deanna Bell, the Vice President of CSA 239. First, I'd like to thank you, Board President Parker, for allowing everyone to speak at the last meeting. It is evident that the board has listened because we are here today at this special board meeting to take a deep dive into the current budget. Board members, I beseech you to make the tough decisions, to trim the fat from the budget and direct the district's negotiating team to make a fair and just offer to each bargaining unit. The teachers and support staff cannot bear the burden of these insurance costs. Without us, there will be no Amador County Unified School District. Students will not learn, they will not be fed, and their social emotional needs will not be met. You must remember what is most important while making financial decisions. While it may be nice to send staff to conferences, there were people from the district office at conference today, and trainings, or to purchase fancy diagnostic tools. Hey, let's make sure we have them for 5 years in a budget crunch. Or convenient to pay an outside company to send attendance letters, sometimes in triplicate. You must ensure that you have the staff to run the schools first and foremost. Please continue to ask the tough questions and listen to your constituents. It is up to you to make sound financial decisions that are in the best interest of everyone, as we are not just employees, but also parents and grandparents of the very students that we serve. I have one final thought that I hadn't written down, and that is a reminder that not one of these bargaining units came to you asking for the insurance to change. That came from the district office, and we were given 14 days to make that decision. Now we bear the brunt of it. Thank you.
Patricia Angija.
Hello again. It's very clear. We have a spending problem. As someone else previously mentioned, the budget that they produced is extremely vague. Mine is not. I have a full-time job. I have 2 kids outside of all of this. I've been poring over this for weeks. I didn't sleep last night. I was up doing this over the past couple weeks, itemizing how much we spend. When you budget at home, you make cuts to non-essentials. Suppliers, contractors, consultants. I'm thinking maybe we should renegotiate our contracts, cancel some. It looks like we have a lot of different IT contractors, accounting, maintenance, landscaping, buses, mental health professionals. There seems to be a lot of duplication of efforts. Multiple health insurance companies and brokers, phone and internet providers, IT contractors, HVAC. And so even though the board's or the district's budget does not really go into much detail, mine does. For instance, for the recurring, I went through and I got recurring expenditures over $10,000, one-time expenditures over $10,000, and then just some questionable expenditures that look kind of weird. First, there's a one-time expenditure for Roseville Chevrolet for $74,335.30. And I don't recall in recent board meetings, I went through the past fiscal year, that a Chevy purchase was authorized. It was on 6/26. Another one was on May 22nd, Folsom Lake Ford Fleet Center for $98,994.14. I don't recall a Ford purchase being authorized, unless this was for the transit vans, which was initially approved at the 6/18 meeting, but then reversed at previous meeting. But this expense took place on May 22nd. If this is for that, if they went and purchased these before even getting initial board approval, which there was question about that, That's pretty sketchy. Questionable expenses under 10,000. Winston Prep School is a prep school in Marin County. Let's see, Fortuna Union High School District is in Humboldt County. Another lawyer, Teresa Palmquist, for $9,500, another lawyer. We use, let's see, Lozano Smith, $232,462.82. We have legal settlements, I'm assuming, with the California Department of Justice for $22,455. Sorry. Let's see. Perry and Villarreal LLP, $129,349.10. So I've have these for you, and I hope you really pour over them.
Next up is Stephanie Davis.
Good evening. My name is Stephanie Davis. I've been in the district since 1999, first as a substitute teacher, and then as a summer school teacher, and then raised 3 beautiful kids with a lot of help from these teachers back here. And then I started back to work in 2007. So I spent 19 of my 20 years here in Amador County. I'd like to talk tonight about the history of teachers' pay here in Amador County. I teach my students that actions speak louder than words. It's an old adage, but an absolute truth. When actions align with words, it builds trust and reliability. That being said, we are always being told how much we as educators are valued. We have been told that we are a priority by every board member and cabinet member here tonight, and by all others who came before you. But these are just words that fall empty when actions do not back them up. For as long as I've been teaching in this district, there has been financial strain, in one form or another. In 2008, all of us furloughed 6 days to help the district stay solvent and avoid a major crisis that was not of our own making. Although promises were made to get us back on track, we were never made whole again. The district continued to dig deeper. We took pay cuts and 0 years, all in the name of helping this district. Over the years, we have accepted much less than we deserve to simply help the district through their rough times. As always, we're told there's no money, even when the district receives cost of living adjustments that are meant to help us offset the rising costs of food, housing, gas, you name it. Personally, even before this insurance crisis, I was living paycheck to paycheck, not able to save much, if anything at all. When extras come up, they usually are put on a credit card. I'm 51, and I've taught for 20 years. And I did not expect to be living like this at this point. So I ask you, where in my budget am I supposed to find the hundreds of extra dollars that I would need if I chose the only plan that makes sense here in this county when we haven't even kept up with the cost of living to begin with? These plans jump up another $200, and that's just for single, in January. They will continue to rise each year, putting us further and further behind, leaving us unable to meet the most basic bills if you continue to deny us a raise in pay. Considering we settled 2 years ago for less than half of what COLA should have been and didn't get retro, I'd say that asking for 5% is the compromise. We, the teachers and support staff, are in crisis now, and it's the district's turn to help us. Are you gonna furlough? Are you gonna take pay cuts that we did? The solution so far has been to take from one group of teachers and give to another. This, once again, is asking teachers to solve the district's financial problems at an unimaginable price. We cannot afford it. We always heard it from you. Now hear it from us. We cannot afford it. It's your turn to help us. After all these years, it's your turn. Put your money where your mouth is. Stop just telling us how much you value us and that we're your priority. Show us. Show us, or you're gonna lose us.
Frank Vargas, and then after him is Layla Long.
Good evening. I'm going to speak as a parent and as a former student of the school district and a resident of Amador County. Tonight I come before you with a message that carries weight. because this decision before us does not exist in a vacuum. The choice to shift a heavier burden onto the staff of the Amador County Unified School District will not only be felt in our schools, it'll ripple through every corner of this county. If teachers and staff are forced to leave, if they must relocate to protect their families because of the rising cost of health insurance combined with wages that already fall below the average, then our classrooms will be empty. Our enrollment will fall, and with it, our funding. And that will only be the beginning. When the families of our employees leave in search of better financial opportunities, when the families of our students depart in search of better educational opportunities, homes will remain empty. Classrooms will struggle to thrive. Businesses will look elsewhere. Our tax base will shrink. Our talent pool will diminish. And then, yes, this county will not only face an educational crisis, but an economic collapse. We are at a tipping point. I will not pretend that mistakes have not been made. These decisions, the decisions that should have been taken years ago, were not taken. That is the truth. That is the fact. But here tonight, we still have a choice to make the difficult decisions, the decisions that will secure the future of our schools, our community, and our families. You may choose the easy path, the path that spares discomfort for a moment, but history will remember it as the wrong choice. Or you may choose the harder path, the path of sacrifice, courage, and resolve. And in doing so, you will stand on the right side of history. So I ask you now, not as administrators, not as board members, not even as elected officials, but as stewards of this county's future. Will you act with vision? Will you act with courage? Will you act while there is still time? Because the future is watching, and history will be the judge. Thank you.
Hello, friends and family of the ACUSD community. My name is Layla Long, but many of you may know me as Shay. I'm a junior at Argonaut High School. If you proceed to take away our teachers' insurance and cut their pay, education will diminish. These teachers go above and beyond to make our school feel like a home. I would like to quote Michael Garcia. He has...
You're right. I said it too.
He has written on his board his personal phone number that we can call or text at any time. In his words, I would rather you text me at 3 a.m. than me wake up and read your obituary at 6 a.m. This is one of the many examples of our teachers caring about our students. Because of the impending pay cuts, many teachers are only doing what is assigned in their contract. This affects not just the teachers, but the students. Grades will drop. If teachers do not have enough time to grade and go above and beyond, it will affect our grades and our overall school's performance. If we're looking at what we see our schools at, that will affect our performance. I've seen multiple times with long-term substitutes that they do not teach like our own teachers. It is very unlikely to build relationships with these long-term subs, and that will make students feel unwelcome in a place that they are supposed to feel welcomed in. It is genuinely heartbreaking that good, passionate teachers are being forced to leave because they cannot stay at this school. Thank you for your time.
All right, Audrey Cube.
Hi, I'm back. My name is Audrey Kill, and I am a senior at Argonaut High. As we know, what we're going through in this district is unacceptable to our teachers and our community. As a student, this is heartbreaking, watching my teachers, my peers, go through something that I can only describe as inhumane. Get in my shoes for a moment and imagine it. You're a senior in high school who has a passion for art and film. The teachers who watched me grow for 4 years leave. Drama classes will only stick to the contract of 2 plays per semester. Kids won't be able to Kids won't want to come to school if teachers aren't going to put in the effort they once did. Teachers shutting their doors at lunch, they don't want to, but because of their contract, you have made community expendable. And questions come flooding in. Who's gonna write my college recommendations for Chapman University or Long Beach University? Who's gonna announce the valedictorian of 2025 or 2026 school year? No offense, I'm not gonna let a long-term sub do that. And I know many other students who wouldn't want that taken away from teachers who put in so much effort. There's a possibility of these teachers leaving, not just to another classroom, but out of the district, out of Amador County, to find work that pays fair, while allowing them to pay bills and keep food on the table. Work that doesn't have insulting pay compared to how much effort these teachers put in. One last question. Why do we stay in a district that doesn't consider our teachers, when affordable health care should be a human right? As a student who has a 4.0 GPA above, why should I represent a high school that doesn't represent my teachers, my custodians, and my counselors? If these teachers leave, why should we all stay? Thank you.
We have Matt Goff. Matt Goff.
Good evening, board and cabinet. My name is Matt Goff, and I'm an English teacher at Argonaut. I've been teaching in the district for 17 years. So my mom is a retired forensic accountant. She was a partner at the 9th largest accounting firm in the nation. Seeing the financial crisis unfold in our district, she has spent some time digging into the numbers. And she and I have discussed multiple concerns we have about this presentation we're about to see tonight, compared to the 25-26 fiscal year adopted budget report noted on the AmadorCOE.org website. I bring these concerns to you with the humble recognition that I am not a finance person. I am just someone who is personally invested in saving the schools of our community from the potential fallout from this healthcare crisis. To begin, I do want to point out there is an error in tonight's presentation. The Jackson Jr. personnel table was copied from Ione Jr.'s, but the numbers were not changed. So observations. One concern is that the expenditures in this presentation tonight do not match the total expenditures on the adopted budget report as noted on the website. The total in tonight's presentation is about $700,000 less than the adopted budget report. Since this presentation is in a different format than that adopted budget, how do you account for that decrease in expenses? In this presentation, we do not see revenue expectations, we only see expenditures. Are we to assume that the revenue in the adopted budget is still accurate? School revenue is derived in part based on average daily attendance, ADA. Do we have an ADA goal in mind for the school year? If so, are we on track with that estimated ADA percentage? And if not, what is the district doing to increase daily attendance? Based on the revenue and expenditures presented in the adopted budget report, the district is in a $2 million deficit. But those expenditures do not account for the increase in health contributions the district will have to do this school year. In order to keep employees. So really the district is looking at a $3 to $4 million deficit. I was hoping that tonight in this fiscal presentation we would see the district's plan for how they're going to get us out of this deficit. From what I could see in tonight's agenda, the district is only discussing current expenditures. I don't see a plan to get us fiscally solvent. We need to attack this deficit on two fronts, increase revenue and decrease costs. First, revenue. That's attendance. What's the district's plan moving forward so that we maximize our attendance numbers? How do we use site and district staff we currently have to get students in the seats? Next, costs. We should have been cutting costs 2 years ago. Now we're facing a 5-alarm fire. So we need to be exploring all ideas to cut costs and increase efficiency. Has the district considered salary cuts, most specifically to those personnel in upper management? Have we looked at reductions in staffing, services, or discretionary spending? Some of these costs will be painful and they're probably going to be unpopular, but we're talking about the future of this school district and our community. Deal with the crisis now before you have to deal with the fallout. Here's an idea that might not be popular. Start charging for students to ride the bus unless parents fill out the household data collection form. If a student falls under a certain income level, they don't need to pay. By doing this, we increase our transportation revenue, increase the number of forms we get families to fill out, thereby potentially increasing our funding in Title I. My mom has worked in bankruptcy for decades. She has offered to go through and help for free. Be open to help if you need it. Do not put your pride on the line. She will work for no cost. Thank you.
Okay, the last speaker is Cody Gold.
Good evening. I'd like to start by saying I wish that I had the opportunity to give public comment after I've seen the presentation. It's tough. I'm gonna ask some questions that probably are going to be answered, and then I need to make some assumptions in this comment at the risk of being misinformed. But my biggest question would be, when I'm looking through this presentation, the operational expenditures are kind of vague on what those are, but I assume that services includes things like utilities, stuff like that. Supplies is gonna include paper and ink and that kind of stuff. So if that's the case, I'm looking at the Ione Elementary School operational expenditures. $220,000 is all it comes out of the general budget for operating that site. When we took out the COP, the bond or the loan repayment amount was going to be like $1.5 million a year, and we were told, don't worry, when we close school sites, we're going to make up that savings. That savings we're going to realize is going to cover those payments. If Ione Elementary School was the only site that was supposed to close, unless we were planning all along to cut staffing, I don't know where we make up that difference. $220,000 is well short of $1.5 million. So with that, I'm looking through, and I know that that's pretty reasonable, and I know that it's not enough, because last year our kids couldn't get stuff sent home because the copier was out of paper and it was out of ink, and they said at the end of the year, don't use the copier anymore. So I know we're already trimmed down operationally. When I look through this, I don't see a lot of places to cut other than staff, and we do not want to see that. What I do see is, if I go to the very bottom, there's one golden egg, one Easter egg in here, and it's a large debt payment, $1.549 million out of the general fund. What do we get for that? The last few board meetings, it looks like we get a 10 through 12 high school and a 7 through 9 junior high or middle school. We're not going to close Ione Elementary, according to the last one. We'll keep the K through 3, I think it was, over at Ione Elementary, because we can't afford to build a TK kindergarten complex at Ione Junior High. So we're not going to close any sites. We're not going to realize any savings there. The best we can realize savings is cutting staffing and making bigger classes, which I don't think is a great approach either. So with that, I ask, what we are going to get is CTE programs for our 7th and 8th graders. But can we have CTE programs if we don't have teachers to teach them? No. What I would ask is, for $1.549 million from the general fund, dang it, there's an off-ramp. We need to take it. We need to spend that money where it matters, and that's healthcare contributions.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and move into the item, ACUSD budget information with Mr. Norton.
Thank you, board. We'll go ahead and get that presentation loaded up. No, keep going. One more. Nope, that one. That one. Should be full screen. Perfect. Okay. Thank you, board. This is the 25-26 budget review. We're looking more specifically at schools and departments within the Amador County Unified School District. As we normally see within many of our presentations, we're not generally looking at the individual departments. So this provides a different way to view our operational budget as we are going through it. So this is focused mainly on expenditures, or actually only on expenditures here. So the way we kind of got it broken down is the school sites, kind of allocating it through there. the departments, and then a central overall charge as well. So beginning the school sites, this is just kind of a high level overall. We have 295.13 FTE, that's full-time equivalents. So that's basically a classified employee who works 8 hours, or it is a teacher working 7. So a combination of those equates to 295.13 on the general fund and 96.05 on the categorical or other funds. So a total of 391.17. Then you'll see the salary totals there, the health and welfare / cash in lieu, and the benefit totals. All in all, the school sites in terms of positional salaries comes out to $34,641,957. On the operational side of things, we're looking at the general fund and categorical. We have the extra time overtime. So the previous slide focused mainly on positionals. So this is when you have your assignment. Extra time overtime is really looking at anything over and above that. So if somebody is working an extra hour, if somebody is working overtime, you'll see those populated in there. And so specifically focused at the school sites, we're looking at that particular piece for the top line. The benefits are what is associated with that overtime and extra time. The supplies are various things, and we'll get a little bit more into those as we go further, as well as services. And then CapEx stands for capital expenditures. So this is really anything that's a large equipment over $5,000.
A question on that part, Mr. Norton. Just to understand, you just said the benefits are what's associated directly with the overtime.
Extra time and overtime, but yes.
Does that mean, for example, and I'm not trying to oversimplify, just trying to understand, does that mean if someone works overtime, that they have accrued additional time toward retirement, and therefore there's additional funding going toward retirement in the long term? Help me understand this benefits piece better.
So it does depend on what they're doing and whether it is considered either PERSable or STIRSable. But yes, there could be allocations at times where that would be considered.
Thank you.
Okay. And so overall, you'll see that the operational expenditures equate to 4.7 million, almost 4.8, and a total site positional operational expenditures of 39.425 million. Beginning at Amador High School, we see 41.73 FTE on the general fund, 12.85 on the categorical. This equates to 2 administrators, 37.08 teachers, and 15.5 classified staff overall. So then we have the salary totals corresponding to that. And so for the personnel that we have currently operating at Amador High School, it is a 4.9, almost $5 million overall for salaries and benefits. Looking at the operational expenditures, we do see.
Mr. Norton?
Yes, please.
So can you just explain to me how we have 41.73 full-time employees?
I guess explain.
How come that's not a whole number?
Sure. So there are people who don't work the full 8 hours. So if somebody works 6 hours, for instance, they'd be 0.75 of a full FTE if you're looking at a classified staff. Does that make sense?
So they're not a full-time employee?
Correct. It's a full-time equivalence, which is what FTE stands for.
FTE makes it look like they're partial humans. That's not what it is. It's about the number, like, do they fulfill a full-time equivalency? And so with part-time staff, we always end up with fractions. I want to make sure, too, tonight as we're going through this presentation, that when you're looking at personnel, the other thing we have to be cognizant of is a site, the cost of the salaries of a site may not look evenly distributed compared to another site. If a site is more veteran, if we have more veteran teachers at a particular site that have been there longer, then we're going to pay more cost per teacher. And so we got to be careful saying, oh, well, that site costs us more. It just may be a more veteran site versus looking at the FTE. So that's just also something we have to consider when we look at salaries, because we have salary schedules that we have to follow, and we don't evenly distribute our schools based on experience, where every school has a certain number of, 5-year or less teachers, middle of the road, and then 20 or more years. And so that can just change based on the experience of the employees at that school.
Okay. So just for clarification, if we have 2 employees working 6 hours each, that would be an FTE of 1.5?
Correct. If they're classified. But yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
And then just to highlight some of the positions here, obviously we have teachers that you would assume, you got campus supervisors that are built in this cost, but some other things too that you wouldn't normally see if we were presenting like our interim budgets or things like that. It'll be separate in a separate fund. Here we kind of tried to combine the different funds. So you'll see some would be like food service staff, for instance, are populated into this cost. So we tried to build in even some other pieces so you could kind of get a picture of other staff that might fall into place there.
One more question, Mr. Norton.
Yeah.
Does this include certain contracted employees that work maybe perhaps on the county level but are servicing students at Amador, or that's totally represented somewhere else?
That would be on the county side. So if they are a county office employee, they would be represented there. Now, there are some caveats to that to other departments later on, whereas a portion of their salary may be paid for by the county or may be paid for by the district. Certain people are, whereas yes, the county may provide services, there are some positions that are literally split. And so they are partially FTE on the one and partially on the other. In this instance, generally the school sites do not have that.
Okay, thank you.
So I don't expect you to have this information right now, but can we get the revenue generated by Amador High School so we can offset it versus the cost?
And you're looking at like ADA, LCF funding?
Whatever funding we're getting that can be pointed towards that school or any of these schools, what it would be.
Sure. Yeah, because there are other things too, like even donations, for instance. Amador High School will receive donation funds, and so you could look at that too.
Yeah, their whole revenue bucket would be great.
All right, so this is what you will see for the total breakout for the costs we have here. Then we have the operational expenditures. We have the extra time and overtime that are allocated here from the general fund, 146,000. On the categorical side is 36,910. The benefits correlating to those particular pieces. In many cases, quite a bit of the extra time overtime here are tied to for like coaches stipends and things like that. There is about 140,000 allocated toward that particular piece of it. So there are other pieces that come into play. In terms of supplies, you'll have 65,100 on the general fund, 132,797 on categorical for 197 total, almost 198. Services 600,446 on general fund, categorical 142,735 for 743, 181. Some things to note of the services side, the things that we do consider would be such as utilities and phones. So you're talking electric, gas, other pieces. That alone at Amador High School equates to $510,000. Some of the other services and supplies that go into play here, you'd be looking at CTE and ag grants in upwards of about $142,000. And then the site itself has allocation for paper and things like that in amounts of, in this case, $78,000, almost $79,000. Obviously, it's more than just paper, but supplies that they'll have to run the operations there.
When you use the word grants, that's not income, that's an expense. Grants.
They're grants of the expense. So they're expenses that are applied towards specific grants. So for instance, CTE. So these are CTE expenditures that I'm looking at in terms of about 142,000 are tied to CTE expenditures.
Thank you.
So on the services, you say of the 600, like 510 is essentially utilities, a good portion of that?
Yes.
I'm just curious, what was it before we got the solar put in?
Yeah, I'd have to look that up.
Yeah, I mean, is that paying off at all?
So.
We can't just stand up and be shouting at the board. We're listening to the presentation. We don't. Okay, great.
So
that's it.
Okay. So then in total, Amador County or Amador High School costs $6.1 million as a total to run its operations as it currently sits this year. Argonaut High School, we have the 47.06 FTE out of the general fund, 14.2 out of the categorical / other fund for 61.26 total. For total salaries, we're looking at about 3.6 overall. Health and welfare, 600,000, and benefits, 900,000.
Robert, just give it 1 second. People are leaving. Ma'am, this is a meeting of the board in public. We can't just have people yelling out the questions. We will get to that, and if it's not here, we can ask for it. We have to give them a chance to give the presentation that the board directed them to give. Thank you.
So for total cost on the positional side for Argonaut High School, we have 5.143. At Argonaut High School, you have 2 administrators, 41.16 teachers, and 18.1 classified staff, so the 61.26. On the operational side of things, we have this similar extra time, overtime. You'll see the general fund split with categorical other funds. With that particular piece, again, you see about 40K of the extra time overtime is actually allocated toward coaches' stipends for putting on athletics during the year, and the benefits associated with it. Then we have supplies, similarly as with Amador, for the general operations of the piece itself, and the services, again, which really tie into the utilities piece quite a bit to run the school. Utilities at Argonaut High School cost $639,000 to operate there. So you can see that's a significant chunk of what is sitting in the services piece. Site allocation there for general operating expenditures is at $76,000. And then the CTE expenditure cost is $133,000. Then moving on to independence, we see that we have 9.54 total FTE between general and categorical, heavily shifted on the general side. Salary total, $784,000. General, $12,452, categorical other. Overall, you're looking at total salaries and benefits of about roughly $1 million at Independence High School to operate that particular facility. And then the operational side of things, you see.
Question on that one, Mr.
Yes.
Norton? I'm sorry.
No, please.
Is it true that the Independence High School principal also covers other programs? Is it like a partial CTE?
It is. So the admin at that site is considered 1.5 FTE. We actually have 2 administrators. We have Matt Medlin, who's there, who is 0.5 of that FTE. And then we have our special ed director, who kind of oversees, Steve Russell, alternative programs. So also is included in that cost.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And then you see the operational expenditures here for Independence High School. The supplies total cost about $15,900, services $117,000. Here, just to give context, the utilities piece of that is $53,647. And then phones is an additional $1.8K. So just a little under $2,000 there. Then we have the site allocation at Independence High School is $8,671. So that's for their general supplies and whatnot they use. The CTE and ag costs here at Independence is $16,000. So again, considerably less. At Ione Junior High School, we have positional staff of 35.71 FTE overall. That equals out to salaries and benefits of $3.293 million. And so we have that kind of split out here between the general fund getting 2.5, the categorical 743.
Sorry to keep interrupting.
No, please.
Admin?
Admin here is 2. We have 2, yeah, a principal and a vice principal. Operational expenditures, you'll see the extra time and overtime. We have $22,450 to the general fund, and then $1,200 on the categorical other fund. Benefits equate, again, correlating to that. $35,000 tied to supplies, $355, almost $356 toward services. Services, again, includes a large chunk toward utilities. The all-in cost utilities there, a budget for the year is $325,000, almost $326. The site allocation at Ione Junior is $31,235 for just general expenditures. And this one as well does have some coaches' stipends built in. It's about $12,000 there.
Where are those last 2 numbers? I'm not seeing them every time you're going through these sites.
The numbers that I'm reading off, they aren't on the slide. I'm giving you extra context to the numbers. That's what I'm trying to provide.
Okay.
At some point, I think I would like to have a more detailed breakdown, including these numbers that aren't shown.
Sure.
That you're providing, just not only for the board, but also the public, so that they can help track where the numbers are coming from.
Absolutely. So total operational and positional costs of Ione Junior High School is $3.7 million, at least estimated for the year. Then we have Jackson Junior's High School budget, and we have associated with that 29.09 full-time equivalents overall. So total salaries and benefits here are $2.696 million. At Jackson Junior, we have only one administrator of the total 29 FTE. Utilities, total cost here is $194,000, just so you have that. The site allocation piece of this is around $27,000, and the coaches' stipends are similar. I should actually move on to the next slide, though, while I'm talking about those pieces. Is $12,000, so you see that comes into the extra time overtime piece and the benefits associated with those.
So you keep mentioning the benefits associated. Is it always retirement? Is it medical, more medical? Help me understand again the benefits piece.
Sure, it's a lot of things, workers' comp, all the different basically statutory benefits that are
That when we invest more time, we just spend more money on that person.
Always, yeah. So basically, there's certain costs that every employee has in terms of that the federal and the state require that we allocate toward any salaries we provide.
Okay, thank you.
So in total for Jackson Junior High, between positional and operational, you see 2.965. For school site budget, Ione Elementary School, we have 49.66 FTE. Total salaries and benefits here are $4.192 million. And for Ione L, there is one administrator at the site. And then looking at the operational side of things, the extra time overtime cost is quite a bit less here at $5,000. We don't have those coaches' stipends this time around, so this is purely for extra time and overtime just for teachers. And the supplies associated with it, you got the $33,000, services $228. Overall utilities at Ione L equate to $175,000. And the site allocation here is $47,748 for different operating expenditures. So overall at Ione L, you have total positional and operational expenditures of 4.4, almost 4.5 million. Moving on to Jackson Elementary School, we have FTE of 43.34 total. We have total salaries and benefits of about 3.5, almost 3.6 million. With that, Jackson L only has one administrator. And then on the operational side of things, again, we see the extra time and overtime, the benefits associated with those, and then the supplies, and then the services. And then again, the services context piece, looking at Jackson Elementary, it's a total of 153,000. That equates to the bulk of that. And then there's an additional 49,415 that's toward their site allocation. Then we look at Pine Grove Elementary School. Here we see the total FTE of 24.21 total FTE, salaries and benefits of 2.2. At Pine Grove, we have again one administrator. On the operational expenditure side, extra time, overtime equate to about 2,200. The supplies is 16,783. Services 141 for a total operational cost of 161,143. At Pine Grove, total utility cost is 124,000, and the site allocation there is 25,000. So the all-in to run Pine Grove Elementary School is $2.374 million. At Pioneer Elementary School, we have 19.41 total FTE. We have basically 1.7 million in total salaries and benefits. This one's a little more unique. We have 0.95 FTE of an administrator. We have 0.05 that lives actually on the county side. That position is split. They run the 2P program, and as a part of that, their salary is split 5%. And then on the operational side, you'll see the extra time and overtime, about $2,600. Benefits that are associated with those, the $600. Supplies of $22,000 and services of $149,000, almost $150,000, for a total of $174,925 overall operating expenditures at Pioneer Elementary School. The utilities piece of this is $134,000, almost $135,000. The site allocation here is $20,929. And so total positional and operational expenditures is about $1.9 million.
I'm sorry, Mr. Norton, you've said several times the site allocation. Help me understand that better, please.
Sure. Each site gets an allocation of funds to be used for various operational expenditures that they deem the most necessary for their different needs. So whether that is paper supplies, additional furniture needs, other pieces that they want to use to operate their site.
Is that listed on this, or that's just extra you're telling
I'm
us?
providing the extra context.
Okay.
It's not on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Looking at Plymouth Elementary School, we have 25.62 FTE. Total salaries and benefits is 2.2, almost 2.3 million in total positional expenditures here. Looking at Plymouth, we have one administrator. On the operational standpoint, you'll see 2,800 toward extra time overtime, with 681 associated benefits with that, and supplies of 33,627 and services of 170,738. In this case, the utilities to run Plymouth is 121,000 on an annual basis. And the site allocation here is 22,425. So overall, the total operating expenditures here at Plymouth is estimated to be, with the budget, 2.4, almost 2.5 million. So then we have Sutter Creek Elementary School. Here we have 36.77 FTE. The total salaries and benefits would equate to 3.285, almost 3.3 million overall. With that, we have just one administrator at Sutter Creek L, and this would include Sutter Creek L and Sutter Creek Primary. On the operational standpoint, we have 2.5K of extra time overtime with the 654 of associated benefits, supplies of 40,553, and services of 363,178, equating to a total operational cost of about 406, almost 407,000. Just again, to provide extra context here, we have associated utilities of 329,000 at Sutter Creek, and the site allocation here is 32,914. Total overall to operate Sutter Creek Elementary School between positional and operational expenditures, we see 3.6, almost 3.7 million.
When it comes to the supplies, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is not including the cost of curriculum. That's a separate thing. Is that correct?
Correct. There could be some, if we had specifically tagged it. Most of our curriculum does get associated centrally. So it wouldn't necessarily be out of their site allocation. Their site allocation would not include curriculum.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Where does site allocation fall under?
It could be under supplies or services. It kind of depends. And actually, it could even be under extra time, overtime. It could be under all three of those caveats. It's kind of how the site depends to do it. Sometimes they want to put some of their site allocation toward extra time and overtime specifically. Sometimes they want to allocate it more toward supplies or services, depending upon the need at that time.
Thank you.
Would it be possible to have, when this gets updated, to possibly have like an asterisk with, for each specific site, the way they want that allocated? Just to help it, to make it more readable?
So that would be the SIPSAs for each site, the single plan
For each school it's listed.
And it's broken into each, so you want
Have a footnote to say that this is how this is split up.
for each, so when we give the site allocations to each site and they create their SIPSAs, they break it out by category. Is that what you're asking for at each site, or just the allocation overall of that site?
Mr. Dorton said that sometimes they split it up between the three. Distinguish which, if it's, and I know it's, I'm adding hours to your task, but I just think it's important for us to have these numbers clearly defined for us as well as the public.
Absolutely. All right, so the all-in cost, I think I already mentioned, but $3.7 million at Sutter Creek Elementary. Then we have North Star Independent Study. We have 2 FTE here. There are no administrators assigned at North Star, or at least there's no FTE split assigned to that. Salaries and benefits here is $232,601. And on the operational standpoint, it's much less. We don't allocate anything specifically to utilities toward North Star. We basically assign that to the site they live on, which is a pair of sites, correct? North Star lives on 2 different sites, correct, or just one?
Yeah, North Star is held at both Amador and Argonaut.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And so the extra time overtime, you see the split of 1.2K, the supplies of 3.9, and services of 4.7K. Overall, 10K for operational expenditures with North Star. Total positional operational expenditures, 242,000 overall. And then we see kind of a side-by-side breakdown of salaries and benefits for each of the different sites along with FTE, so you can kind of get some totals perspective. And comparables between secondary, elementary, and how it kind of stacks up.
Okay, so on this slide, what I'd like to see added is attendance, so number of students at each site, and the revenue bucket for each form of revenue that site has. Okay. And then, so we can see an overall, the total cost is 6.1 for Amador, and the total revenue coming in is 7, is 5.5, just so we can see how each school is doing.
Well, one little thought on that, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Critchfield or anyone else. On some of our schools, particularly our extremely, shall we say, smaller schools, they're going to be less efficient because of how very isolated they are. And so I would assume, and I haven't looked at granular data at this just yet, but the class sizes are a little smaller than compared to some of the schools in the more central part of the valley. Is that accurate-ish?
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to, it's a calculation we can absolutely do. We'll pull current attendance numbers based on enrollment, and we can do a revenue projection for each of those schools so that we can compare each one. But again, that can be a little bit tricky because if it's a smaller school that has a veteran staff, right, then it's going to look like it costs more per student than another school that may have a less veteran staff.
But I believe as part of their the SARC, the School Accountability Report Cards, it does include that data where it talks about how long the average teacher has been there and class sizes and things like that.
Correct.
So that is another source, just like the single or plan for student achievement we could reference, we could look at.
Yeah.
That's out there.
Yes.
Okay.
So to be clear, my question is not to get the revenue numbers in and say, hey, we need to start closing schools. It's just to get all the information on one page.
Yeah, correct.
No problem. All right, then moving on to department budgets. Beginning with adult ed, we have 4 FTE here for total salaries and benefits of $496,906. In looking at their FTE, we have 1 administrator at adult education, 2 teachers, and 1 classified. Operational expenditures are looking at 6,000, a little over, or about right there for extra time overtime, 1.3K for benefits, 5,000, a little over that for supplies, and 31,269 for services. Here there are no utilities built in. I think it's because they're working at a site where we apply the utilities toward that site. So in this case, it'd be Independence High School where they live. The services you see here are more toward software and other curriculum pieces that they have to put on some of their programs. Food service for positionals that are only really tied to food service and not site specific is 1.63 FTE. So total salaries and benefits there is 206, almost 207,000. With this, we have 1 director. And then there's 0.63 of a classified employee. Looking at the operational expenditures, however, most of this is allocated centrally. So we don't split out how much the food costs are at a particular site. That is something we might be able to look into in the future, but right now we don't calculate it that way. So you'll see this is the total operational expenditures of our food service program overall. On the operational side of things. So there is some extra time, overtime. This can be sometimes even related to subs. So when a food service worker is unable to do it, we have to do that. You'll see some of that built in here and the benefits that are associated with those particular extra costs. Supplies is 2.1 million. Much of this is food. Actually, 1.6 million of it is food alone. And then this year in particular as well, you'll see some CapEx. This has to do with that new equipment we were looking at from before. So you'll see a lot of that allocated into this year's budget. The additional services we have for different pieces, whether it's for training food service, whether it's for some of the software programs that we have to run our food service operations, things like that.
This is Fund 13, right? That has to be solely spent on this type of thing.
Correct. Every expenditure in this line is all Fund 13.
Right. Yeah, no general fund, whatever, and we can't move funds from Fund 13 for other expenses. It has to stay there.
I wish we could, but no, we can't.
Okay.
So also remember this adult education sits in Fund 11, where we have to keep an eye on adult education and food services, is if they go beyond their revenue, the general fund is obligated to keep them whole. That has not happened. But it's just something to make sure that we keep those budgets within their constraints, because if they do go over budget, then the general fund would have to make up the difference.
So in total, the food service position operational expenditures, again, it doesn't include all the food service staff. A lot of them have been allocated to the sites where we could. We've got them identified in that way. So this is basically, the staffing wise is central, but when you look at what it costs to put in the food on the tables in terms of operationally, we're looking at 2.83 overall. Moving on to the business office, we have 7.55 total FTE. We have 0.85 of classified management. And total salaries and benefits here is 900,000.
As we go through each department, the majority of the centralized staff their salaries are split 85-15. And we have the second presentation tonight in the county board meeting, because we're operating a district and a county office. We don't, in the centralized services, the majority of staff are not county only or district only. They have to have one employer, but we can split their salaries. And for most of those employees, the salaries are split 85-15. So that's why it's the 0.5 FTE. There's another 1.5 FTE that will come up on the county meeting, creating one manager for that department.
So just the manager is split that way, or every employee is split that way?
No, the majority of the employees in the department are split that way.
Okay.
Like, for example, we have 2 employees in payroll. They're not distinguished by county or district. And so they have 85% of their salary paid for by the district, 15% paid for by the county.
Thank you.
So in terms of operational expenditures, we have 21,000 allocated toward extra time overtime with benefits of 7.7 associated, 3,000 toward supplies, and 28,000 toward, almost 29,000 toward services. Some of the services here, again, there's no utilities built into this, but you'll see things like we do memberships for Dun and Beard Street, which allows us to then apply for grants, which are some of the things that we have to do. So those are built into that, as well as other memberships that are affiliated with the business office, and things like that. So 60,638 overall for operational expenditures business office, 960,000 overall. On the technology department, we have 6.35 total FTE. Salaries and benefits total come out to 642,000, almost 643. Here we have 0.5 of a director. He is one of those that's split 50-50 on district and county. In terms of operational expenditures, I did this one a little bit differently. We have the general fund allocation as normal. Many of the services that are on the general fund for technology are for software pieces that the district utilizes district-wide. Trend Micro, which is for our security. We have Adobe and different Microsoft licenses, as well as Duo. So there's a few different allocations there. We have our annual Chromebook refresh. This is something that's out of the LCAP. There's 178,000 that's allocated there. The reason we have that in technology is they're the ones who kind of spearhead it, and so this budget is allocated in their department to do that.
I deeply appreciate that choice of choosing to make clear how much the Chromebooks, that piece of technology, costs. When you mentioned Microsoft, now we are mostly a Google district, correct?
Correct.
So would it be safe to say that a significant portion of our licensing to Microsoft is for operating systems or server operating systems, or am I misunderstanding?
We still utilize Microsoft Office throughout the district.
Okay.
So we do have those kind of services built in. I'll have to look for with Dan specifically at how it's all utilized. I don't know if there are other.
Because in the Chromebooks, we're using a different OS, so.
Correct.
But there are systems used that are running Windows.
Correct. Majority of teachers' computers, they're all Windows-based.
Okay. Thank you.
I think all, but I don't know for sure. And then I also added the E-rate projects. We had discussed those in a board meeting, I want to say it was last fiscal year. And so this is the allocation of those E-rate projects. Whereas it looks like 195,000 is hitting the bottom line, that is true in terms of hard expenditures. However, there are discounts associated with those. So that cost is really only 25% of what's listed there. And that's why I wanted to call those out too, to give more clarification. And again, we don't have any utilities built in technology. They're at a site, and so the utilities themselves hit that.
So explain to me, the E-rate cost is 195, but it's really only 25% of that?
Correct. We have to book the title, the whole charge. So what you would see is a revenue offset that basically is the discount that we get for it.
So in reality, that's 50,000.
Roughly, yeah.
Okay.
In the superintendent's department, we have 2.04 FTE for 421, almost 422 salary benefits total. And here you do have the one administrator. On the operational side, we do have supplies and services of $8,000 and then 59.8 for a total of $67,850. A lot of the things we have in here, such as the board CSBA membership and for conference pieces there, as well as superintendent conference and travel memberships that are general district-wide, and then some general supplies to operate the department.
Quick question.
Yeah.
So I thought in the superintendent department, we had the superintendent and one assistant.
Yeah, so what we put in here as well, we have a custodial who works in district office. We really didn't have a place for because we don't have a district office department. So we threw it in the superintendent's department, as it were.
So the superintendent's 0.85, and then his admin's 0.85 also?
So the superintendent is 1, the admin is 0.85, and the classified staff is 0.19, the custodial, because that custodial is only partially at the district office, so they also split out.
But the superintendent's cost is split between the two.
It is, but its FTE for STIRS purposes lives on the district.
So are we not going to see a superintendent with the Office of Education?
You will not see an FTE on there for that, but you still will see the dollar figure associated.
It's because it's an elected position.
So will there be any salary with that, though? Okay, I guess we'll see when we get there, but that confuses me a lot. So we have 1 for the superintendent, and then is the admin 1 also?
The admin is 0.85.
The admin's 0.85. All right. So 0.2 goes to custodial?
Roughly, yeah. It's 0.19.
Is that the same with all of the departments then? Business office?
So in business office, I'll just run through it. It was 0.85 for the admin. It's 5 total for the confidential, but the confidential there are really at 0.85. And then we have 1.75 for classified, because we have some classified staff in the.
Okay, so when we just go through and redo this, maybe we can just break those down.
Sure.
Mr. Norton, I'm not sure if right now is the time to ask, but in the past, we've had the discussions that the district, it costs them because of being top-heavy in the district office. Okay. And I would like to get, and I'm not sure how you do it, get a breakdown of the costs associated where those I guess, fines came from, so that we could get a handle on, okay, this is where we're top-heavy, this is where these costs are, so that we can see where those expenses come from.
So you're referring to the admin ratio?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, you're referring to the admin ratio?
Yeah.
Okay, we can look into where the admin used to be that led to that, and provide that context.
Somehow get it broken down so that we can get a good handle on what those costs were and why we were fined or why we were dinged for being top heavy, so to speak.
Okay. Yeah, I know in the report that was provided at the time, it does break it down in terms of a lot of those pieces. So I'm sure we can orchestrate that in here.
And I think a lot of people here me included, would like to see as on this presentation, if we had a slide to show that so that we can see the cost, just so that it's fresh.
Sure.
Okay.
So, Mr. Norton, you said just a moment ago where they used to be. Are you saying, and I think this has been discussed previously at meetings, but are you saying that currently we are in compliance with the ratio?
Correct.
Thank you.
Ken, you had noted you wanted to go back and do other things. Is there still something else you would need, or are we good on those pieces?
No, I just wanted to have a breakdown of what makes up the FTE when we see it.
Okay. Did you want to go back to some of the other departments, or did you want to just keep going from here on?
Yeah, when you revise all this, I'd like to see it for all.
That's what you're doing, okay,
Yes.
for the revision. Gotcha. All right. So in terms of educational services, we have 2.87 FTE. Here in Ed Services, we have 2.02 admin management. We have 0.85 of a confidential position. And so the total salaries and benefits here equate to 461,502. In terms of the operational side, we don't have any extra time overtime built in. We have supplies of 235,000, overall services of 933,457, much of which is tied to specific grant initiatives led by the Educational Service Department. I know, Patty, you wanted to comment on some of those.
A lot of this is encompassed in our CTE grants, our community schools grants. That all lives under this department. So when we look at supplies and services, that's just a couple. We have teacher induction, UPK planning, the LCAP initiatives, educator effectiveness. So the numbers that are on the supplies and services are tied directly to grants that have specific spending requirements, if that makes sense.
So in total overall for the Educational Services Department, we're looking at 1.6 million to run the operation. In terms of maintenance warehouse, we see 11.98 FTE. Overall, that leads to a total salaries and benefits of 1.18 million. On the maintenance side, we have 0.85 of a admin management and 11.75 of classified.
Robert, to be clear, that's our centralized maintenance workers, right? So site custodial staff were included in the site presentation. This is just our centralized maintenance workers and warehouse.
Correct.
Given that the bulk of this is categorical, is there a particular fund that all that comes out of?
Yeah, we have what's called routine restricted maintenance. Okay. As the district and county, there's a certain percentage that we have to spend toward routine restricted maintenance every year. On the district side, it's 3%. So basically 3% of all of our operating expenditures need to come from the routine restricted maintenance fund. That fund is a derivative of the general fund. So essentially there is a portion of the LCFF dollars that do go toward that every year to then fund the maintenance costs.
So it's categorical for accounting purposes, but
Correct.
It's really from the general fund.
That's, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And then in terms of operational expenditures, you'll see extra time and overtime. We have 173,000, benefits of 63,669, supplies of 406,000, services of 390,000, for a total cost of 1 million. Within the maintenance department, we have custodial supplies, things that actually end up going to all the different sites, but they're built into this particular budget here. They are not site allocated. We have just general maintenance supplies, so as things break, they will go through and fix them, general repairs. There is some vehicle maintenance costs for some maintenance vehicles, fuel costs that are built into this, as well as other services such as pest control, things like that.
Mr. Norton, on the extra time and overtime, is that number derived from like after hour emergencies or?
I mean, some of it can be. I mean, there's quite a bit of it that's for subs. Actually, we have the vacant positions or folks who call in sick. There's quite a bit that we have where we're constantly filling needs.
Trying to make up the not having enough people?
Correct.
Is it also true that we have, and maybe this is just kept at the site level, but we have custodial or maintenance people, however you want to classify it, who are helping out at athletic events and other sorts of things like that? Or is that strictly in the site level budgets?
The athletic cost would end up hitting the site level budget. So if it was that particular thing, if it was just a maintenance thing that was requiring extra time, then that could fall into this category. It just depends on what it is. In terms of human resources, we have 4.25 FTE. Total salaries and benefits here are 539,429. In the HR department, we have 0.85 admin management, 3.4 of confidential. And then on the operational expenditures, we have about 3,000 allocated toward extra time overtime, 6,000 towards supplies, and 53,910 towards services. HR department, you're looking at things such as fingerprints for staff, TB test, physicals, general operating supplies, memberships, advertising for available positions, things like that. So 603,000 to run the HR department. In terms of transportation, we have 29.28 total FTE. Total cost of positions and salary is 2.1 million, almost 2.2. Here we have one administrative director. We have 28.28 of the classified staff. On the operational expenditures, we've got about 3,000 shows extra time overtime. This is definitely light, so it's definitely filtered into a different category. We do see more than that, so we'll get an updated number there for you when we have this revised for you. In terms of supplies, as you see the 489,077, services 197,629, and CapEx of 225,6. Please note the 225.6 was the placeholder of the vans from before. That is going away. So once we have the updated budget, that will not be there. So
on those vans, trying to recall, was one of those vans that was totaled?
It was a replacement for the workability van.
Okay, and then what happened with that? Are we still short that van?
I believe we're making it work right now with the rest of our fleet as best we can. I couldn't tell you 100%, but
okay, just thank you.
Yeah, we have not purchased any new ones.
Would now be a good time to ask how that went?
In terms of
giving back the vans?
We're still working with that. The vans have been given back. So in terms of supplies with transportation, so you'll also note fuel is 330,000, and that hits the supply line. Repairs toward vehicles and maintaining is around 113,000. Then we have other general services. Tires, for instance, are another piece of the cost, and then just other vehicle fluids, things like that. So basically just maintaining and managing our fleet. A lot of costs in that. So overall, for positional and operationals, we see around 3 million, almost 3.1. In terms of special education, we have 12.9 total FTE. Please note this is the central as well as designated instructional services staff that we have that live on the district side. So there are a few other folks. The reason they're not site allocated is because they generally provide services at multiple sites. So their costs kind of fall in central for this particular purpose. Total salaries and benefits of that is 1.7 overall. And then in terms of
any admins or directors included in this?
Yes, thank you. There are 2. In terms of extra time overtime, there are 233,000 allocated over the course or throughout the district. This one does not live on the site either. This one, if there are extra needs for, let's just say, running an IEP that runs late, you'll see that charge hit here. This is also for subs, filling vacancies in that sense when we can through a sub. So some of those costs are hitting here. Then you'll have supplies at 51.5K and services of 412,948. Some of the things that fall into here, assessments, there is some allocated toward other services, curriculum, things like that. General supplies to operate our different special education classrooms throughout the district when it needs to be centrally funded. We have service needs too, so we'll have, at least booked into budget, we have a psych service allocation that we'll be revisiting. We actually were successful in filling the psych position, so when we reach interim, we will see that change.
Does any of this include student placement who have severe needs and are at a non-public school, or that's strictly county level, or how does that work?
That's strictly on the county side. So overall, for our special education, at least on the district side, and really what's more centrally, because there are quite a few positions that are at each of the individual sites themselves, is 2.4 or almost 2.5. And then when looking at our central budgets, we have, and please note this was updated recently. I noticed there were a couple things that were missing. So, well, it's the second line there, but we'll get to that in a second. The transfers, 2.3, almost 2.4, hitting the general fund. What these are basically a transfer from the district to the county in support of special education services to our district students. So we have that piece tied in there. There are also some LCAP initiatives that are supported by the district that fall into the county. It's much smaller amount. It's, I think, about 140,000. Then we have the ELOP and special education preschool intervention transfer. The bulk of this is by far and away our ELOP support. Essentially, we get a district-granted ELOP fund that comes in for about, in this case, it was 1.7 that we're anticipating to send over to the county side. So it literally hits the district, and we send the funds back over to the county in support of the program. Then the county's child development department supports our ELOP program and runs that operation. The debt payments we have currently are at 1.53, almost 1.54. And on those, we had the COP payment this year, that's $540,000. We have the solar loan we're still paying back, that's $796,000. We have a bus lease still outstanding of $147,000, and we have maintenance trucks of $26,000.
How many years left do we have on solar, and when was that done?
Offhand, I don't know how many years
Okay.
are left. I'll have that for you, though.
Okay, thank you.
And Jared, I don't know, you may have historical knowledge on when that was begun.
When was the project finished? That's a loaded question. 2018 is when that project was completed, I believe. And the loan began around that same time. There's two different loans built in there, clean energy loans. I believe they were 15-year loans. We'll double check on that. So we still have some time. We're probably about halfway through.
In terms of insurance, we have property and liability insurance that covers the whole district for different property that we have, other liability issues. That comes out to $893,000 of that. The other is what we've discussed before, where we saw an increase this year in AB 218 premiums. That cost is $316,000 this year. Then we have legal expenditures.
Real quick. So on that, to be clear, this is where, people ask, well, what's going on with the JPA? So we have we are members of the Tuolumne Joint Powers Authority. So we pool our resources with all the school districts and county offices in Alpine, Amador, Calaveras, and Tuolumne counties to work together to get a better rate. But we pay the JPA that property and liability insurance that goes under the umbrella coverage that covers all of the districts and county offices. And I know it's a big dollar amount, but it actually gets us a better rate than if we went out on our own to get property and liability insurance. And then AB 218, it's not a topic anyone really wants to talk about. Just a reminder, that has to do with child molestation charges and the financial liabilities that come with AB 218 and the lifting of statute of limitations. So what happens in that is a district could be held liable for something that happened 30, 40 years ago, okay? So what's the company we used for property and liability back then is not the company we have now. And so when they changed these laws and then the settlements were in the multi-million dollars in many of these districts, then these companies could come back and claim that we need to pay them for excess coverage. And so we have been, over the last several years, paying this excess coverage in the event that there's an AB 218 case that would need to be settled, that would provide us for that settlement amount. And pretty much every district in the state is doing the exact same thing.
So this isn't related to the health insurance at all. That is all covered separate, the site level based on the employee connections, that kind of thing.
So
This is strictly
the health and welfare cost of basically the employee cap and cash in lieu was built at the site level, so that's why we had that called out. You'll see here we also have the self-insurance expense of $695, so that was the hard cost we anticipated for this year.
for, okay, just covering stuff, just the basic coverage.
Extra claims if we
Extra
had,
claims.
yep.
Okay.
So then we had the legal expenditures of 407,000. 141 of that, or 142, was tied to special education itself. Another piece is related there. We had essential services of 567. Those range in what they are, but deferred maintenance is one that falls into that, that we have. We have 150K allocated there. We have audit services. We have our Aries software and other pieces that fall into that. Then we do have some central utilities, things that will hit like the district office, so the costs for itself of running the district office, for electricity, et cetera. So that comes out to the 254. And then we have scholarships, 50K. This will go away after this year. This was the Andreessen Scholarship. It lives. It was not even funded by general fund dollars or anything like that. It was a grant that came in to support it, a donation. So that is expiring this year. We basically are spending out all those funds.
So to be clear though, because a lot of people are invested in this Andreessen Scholarship, the rest of the Andreessen money is held at the Amador Community Foundation. Okay, and so it came in two allocations. The Andreessen Scholarship, the second one was a much smaller amount. I know a lot more about this because I was principal at Amador when this happened. The Andreessen Scholarship is written specifically for Amador High students. So a smaller portion was given to the district. We've worked with the Community Foundation. They are much better equipped to manage scholarships than we are. And so the Andreessen Scholarship is supposed to be ongoing, and it's based off interest earned. And so what we've done is over the last several years with them, the interest that they've earned through the Community Foundation, we've then used our money to pay for those scholarships to eventually dwindle down our little portion so that it goes away. And now the Community Foundation can completely manage the Andreessen Scholarship moving forward. So the Andreessen Scholarship is not going away. That's why I bring that up. It's just the portion that was sitting in our funds is being spent out and will all be then housed with the Amador Community Foundation, who does a fantastic job, by the way.
So then overall in central charges, we see the 9.2. And then available for questions.
Okay. Perfect. So we will just go ahead and go down the line then with questions or comments or additional things. Peter, when you're ready.
I do appreciate this opportunity to try to understand at least a little bit better where the money is going. It is helpful, and it could potentially get us to some creative solutions as we try to work on this. I agree with what's been said regarding, can we have some little bit additional information or comparative information regarding revenue to go along with it, and to be able to see how the pieces connect. I don't know what else to say. I know that there's a great deal of time invested in this, even to where it is right here. And so I know, speaking for myself, it helps me understand things better. So thank you for the time invested to prepare what we have so far.
Couple questions. On page 1, just the cover page, it says September 4th of 25. Was this done on September 4th, or is that a date wrong?
No, what happened was I copied the title page from another one and changed everything but the date. On the second one, you will see that it has been corrected.
Okay. All right, I just want to make sure. We could have had 2 more weeks to review it before now, but that's not the case.
No.
Also, thanks for the time to put it together. I think we do need to add the revenue piece in here so it makes more sense. And it feels like, this is the 15,000-foot view. I think I've talked to you a little bit about how we should drill down in some of these categories to explain them further. And I think if that's done, this could be a much more valuable report. So thank you.
I think it would be helpful to get, when we get more into the weeds, as far as getting what our personnel numbers are. Something that stuck out at I think it was the last meeting or one of the last few meetings. I believe it was 2018. It was mentioned that we were $1,000 in the green. And I think it'd be good to look at what our personnel numbers were, mainly in the district office, on what the people were, how many people we had, if there's different departments that weren't in existence then, maybe see, okay, there's a slight change, but I think that's important to look at that. You had mentioned phones several times during the discussion, and I just want to make it clear, or get it cleared. Any of those charges, is the district providing cell phones for any staff?
There are some cell phones provided, yes.
Okay.
The main charge at the sites is every classroom office space has a landline phone.
Okay, so that's where the majority of it.
Yes.
I still think it's important. I know where I work, if you use your own cell phone, you get a $20 stipend or something to cover it. I don't know if it'll make an impact, but I think that's something that we need to look at, because we're trying to figure out every dollar where we can use it and be efficient. Again, thank you for time putting this together, and I look forward to the further detail as we have our next discussion on this, and thank you.
I first want to thank you for the work that you put in to put this together. I'm going to be completely honest. You lost me when you started throwing things in there that weren't in there. Like, I'm scrolling, trying to find them, like, what's he talking about? I couldn't find it, and I was like, bam, you lost me. I also feel that revenue being put in this will help kind of clear up some of the things that I'm lost with, probably a lot of the things that I'm lost with. I hate saying that, well, this is a start, but I guess this is a start. And I really do appreciate your work, but I was lost, to be real. But thank you.
Okay, I wanted to say thank you to you guys who have worked really hard on this presentation and compiling all this information. It really was and has been a large undertaking to do this. I called this meeting and asked the district to put this information together because I feel that we can't move forward in any direction as a district until we have all the chips on the table. And so this presentation isn't the final product. I don't think that, at least for me, expected it to be a final product. And we have a lot of work here to do as a board and a district. I could be misspeaking. However, I know certainly in my time on the board, and I will dare to say in the time before, that there hasn't really been a presentation like this. And so I think it's long overdue. So we can make all the criticisms we want. However, we do have to start somewhere. It has to come from somewhere. I will end with the fact that there will be candid, difficult decisions coming our way very, very soon. But they do have to happen. And so this meeting was put on to begin those conversations, what we can do, what we need to do, where we can go forward. So again, Robert, thank you. I hope that we will be deciding on another meeting date and take what we need to see on the next one, and we can get that all together. But I do appreciate this. This is a large undertaking, and so I know it wasn't easy what we asked for, but it needs to happen. So thank you for that, all of you. This is just a discussion item. We aren't taking any action this evening. So with that, we will move into reports. Mr. Critchfield?
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge, I'm not going to say a whole lot because I hear people loud and clear when they say they want action over words, and so I'm going to keep it brief. This was intended to be a beginning. Maybe people misinterpreted that. I apologize if that was a misinterpretation. It was a discussion item only. This is us getting direction from the board on being able to dig deeper, and absolutely we're going to be cutting things, and we're going to dig into every single thing. Everything is on the table, okay? And that's all I'm going to say tonight.
Okay. Peter, any further report?
This has not been an easy time for anyone, and I know that as a career school teacher who does not work here, that I do not have your lens. I have a partial lens, but I do not have your lens, and I would never wish to minimize anything what you're going through, and deeply grateful who you are and what you contribute to the community. And so I hear you. I appreciate the communication. I'm also grateful for what I think is a very wise decision to get some of this stuff figured out, to hopefully have soon some sort of agreement between the various employee groups and the district before we continue other discussions of potential cost savings, which of course includes consolidation. So Mr. Critchfield, I applaud your decision to postpone any consolidation discussion until we get some of this other stuff ironed out first.
I just want to say I really appreciate the public and the teachers and the students coming out the last two meetings. We do hear you. I assure you of that. And I also just really want the employee groups and the district office to work together. We do need to come up with something sooner than later. Personally, I don't think that an impasse is the right thing right now. We need to figure out something for these benefits that are going to affect in October. If you do an impasse, I think that could hurt both sides. That's just my personal opinion. But let's get together, and if we do need to have more frequent negotiating dates, then we just need to do that. And, you know, we can figure something out, and we have to stop this us against them mentality, because that is not what is going on here. I believe there's limited funds. We are under the watchful eye of the state, being a qualified district, so that we have to consider all those things. And I'm not saying, you know, take whatever offer is given to you. I don't believe in that. But let's work together and not just be all or nothing. That's my 2 cents, but I do think we'll get through this, and we don't want to lose one teacher. I can assure you of that. Thank you.
Echo what Ken said. Thank you to everyone that showed up tonight, and with your comments and also the emails, you are being heard and continue to be heard, and please continue to come and show your voice. I will say I am the minority, I believe, up here as far as talking the consolidation issue. It's not an easy subject, and I know it's a hot topic, but I think it definitely is tied into our budget issues, and I'm hoping that in the very near future that we can have a thorough discussion on not only the impacts that some might say are negative, but also the benefits of combining schools and trying to make things better for not only our students, but also our teachers. Thank you.
I don't have anything to say. Thank you.
I think that I kind of said most of what I had to say previously. However, I will say I do echo. I would like the district and our bargaining units to be working together and come to something to make sure that we get some help for our teachers before October 31st. That is all I'm going to say on that. I don't want to get in the weeds on that up here. That being said, I know that consolidation has been brought up a couple of times. I have mixed feelings about lots of things on that. However, I feel that we have to prioritize things that are going on, and so that is why we work together and make that decision that we aren't talking about it right this second. That doesn't mean that we won't talk about it, because it has to be talked about. We've got lots of stuff on the table for that. It will be talked about, but as I said with this, all the chips have to be on the table, and I feel the same way about consolidation. All the chips have to be on the table. I need to see the information that we never got the last time when we talked about it. I have to see all of this stuff in order to be able to make a decision that I feel comfortable making, along with, of course, the entire board. So that's just where I stand with that. So prioritization is something that has been big on my mind lately, and that's what our goal is. That's what we've instructed the district to do, and I think that they are doing that, and that is the route that we're taking at this point. Same with them. I get all the emails. I see them. I don't respond to every single email, and I do apologize, but I do have 4 small children, 1 with special needs. My husband works out of town. I got a lot going on too, guys. I know everybody has lives and stuff, and so do I. I read every single one. I try to really respond to them. I do hear them. I am also an online person. I probably shouldn't be at this point, but I am also an online person. I see what people say. Some of it is true, some of it is absolutely not, but I'll just leave it at that. With that, we do have another meeting tomorrow here at open session or closed session. Open session starts at 6:30, so I'm sure I'll be seeing some of you there. And with that, we are adjourned. We do have a county meeting after this to discuss more finances, so in case anybody is riveted to stay. Meeting to order. All of our board members are here. Are there any deletions or corrections to the agenda?
There are not.
Okay, so we're gonna look to our employee organizations. Do we have Mrs. Angie Lucas with SEEK? Okay.
Hello, board. Can you hear me? Also, I have a cough, so hopefully I don't need to violently escape. All right. We stand before you today united. The increases in our health and welfare benefits are currently, actively, changing the trajectories of our lives. Each and every employee of this district and county office are facing financial challenges that did not exist last year. This is the reality of our situation. Last month, you heard about our fears, our stresses, and a lot of hypotheticals. This month, we are facing the harsh reality of this situation. Some staff, honestly, are listing their homes for sale. Some staff have quit. This has already happened and left the jobs that they love. Some of us are re-examining growing our families in this area. This is happening in our community, and this is happening right now. This is our reality. Some people are looking to take-home pay so diminished by these increases that they will owe the district after a month of full-time work. This is our reality. When our so-called benefits are suddenly a detriment to our livelihood within this institution, how can we not take a hard look at our continued employment? One thing, this was mentioned once before tonight, but I'd like to highlight for you tonight is the fact that many of us are making choices out of necessity, not what we want or need. You will be presented at some point with opt-out numbers, gold versus platinum, employee only versus family. Please take into consideration that the stress and planning time each employee had to go through to land on these individual decisions. With so much in the air, both within the negotiation process, the district's offers, and the uncertainty of the rates of the 2026 school year, or year in the marketplace plans, we're doing the best we can with what we know right now. Please know that for many, the decisions we are making are not necessarily what is best for us in order to keep us healthy and whole, but what we will struggle to afford. Because, once again, this is our reality. So we stand before you tonight united. We are united in our effort to do right by our members, and we are united in our effort to do right by our community. So please join us in our united effort to continue encouraging good faith bargaining and prioritizing our staff, because at this moment that this is our reality. Thank you.
Ms. Hatton.
Good evening, Superintendent Critchfield, board members, cabinet, and community. My name is Jamie Hatton, and I'm currently the president of CSEA 827. This is my 26th year with the county, and throughout my whole career, I've always taken the health and welfare benefit, the health insurance. For the first 15 years, I noticed a pattern. Every time we received a small raise, it was immediately offset by an increase in the insurance premium. By year 20, I was actually bringing home less than I was when I actually started 20 years prior. I know all too well how insurance costs continue to rise. Now we find ourselves in a terrible situation with a financial burden falling directly on staff, the very people who already make considerably less money and who are most raising young families. I have members who are being forced to give up their cash in lieu if they take Covered California. That means approximately $800 to $1,100 a month. Then they're left with two choices: take the county plan or standard Covered California, but still lose their cash in lieu. Either way, the results are devastating. A member who currently brings home $3,500 loses approximately $1,000 of cash in lieu and has to take a medical plan for $200. That's $1,200. That's a third of her income. She's a single mom. Rent is $1,700. You get utilities, phone, water, garbage, cash. She's left with less than $100 for the whole month. This is not sustainable. Many of our members are telling me that they will have no choice but to resign and seek employment elsewhere. These are very long-term loyal employees who show up every day to keep our schools safe, caring, and effective. Right now, we are negotiating for fair pay, fair benefits, and so that the students continue to receive the consistent support they deserve. Stable staff means stable classrooms. Fair compensation helps us retain experienced employees. Healthy, respected staff means better outcomes for students. But today, wages and benefits are simply not keeping up with the cost of living in our community. If working conditions do not improve, ACOE risks losing their most dedicated long-term employees. Together, we can ensure Amador County schools remain a place where students thrive and where staff are treated with dignity and fairness. Thank you.
Okay, next we're going to move into public comments on non-agenda items. I don't think we don't have any other comment cards. So we're going to go ahead and move into our only item, our discussion item, the ACOE budget information with Mr. Norton.
Perfect. Thank you, board. We'll get the presentation set up. Thank you, Melinda. Appreciate you pinch hitting today.
Thank you.
Oh, no. It's that one. And it's the bottom one there. All right. So here we'll look at the Amador County Office of Education School and Department Budget Review. Similarly, we have the setup the same. We have the school sites, the departments, and central. And when we look at the school sites here, we see overall for the locations, we have 19.87 FTE, total salaries and benefits here of 1.7. And on operational side of things,
Mr. Norton?
Yep.
I'm sorry to keep hitting this drum, but are any administrators included in that, or?
There are, I was going to break them out as we got to the sites, but I can tell you here, it's just 0.5 overall for the three. And then on the operational side, we see 500 allocated extra time overtime, 111 to benefits, supplies are 19,841, services 2318, and total operational 22,770. Total school site and positional and operational expenditures. This is for the different locations, 1.7 overall. So then break it down. We're going to break it down by the three different locations. We have the Amador Community School. We're going to have special education preschool and adult transitions. Those are the three we're kind of focusing on here. Then we have various department budgets. It's not like our other one, the district side, where we have the individual schools. These are, we have the county school, but then we have the other two kind of groups here. So for Amador Community School, we have a total FTE of 3.37. This is where we have that 0.5 FTE for the administrator. The total salaries and benefits is the $385,484. And then on the operational expenditure side for Amador Community School, we see 500 for that extra time overtime. This is where it's allocated here. 9,000 for supplies, 1,768 for services overall. Note this one doesn't have the utilities built in. It's living on the location of Independence High School, so that's where you would find on the district side there. Overall operational expenditures here would be 11,919. For the special education preschool, we have 9.25 FTE. There are no administrators on this one. Total salaries and benefits is 819,000. On the operational standpoint, we have no extra time overtime allocated. That's not because they don't use it. It's because it's usually allocated centrally, in this case on special education, in the special education department's central budget. So you'll see it there. And so then we have about 4,100 in supplies and 200 in services. So all pretty minor expenditures there. There are other supplemental expenditures that may come through the special education department, but they don't hit the site budget directly, so it doesn't break it out that way here. Adult transitions, we have 7.25 FTE. Again, here we do not have an administrator in this group. We have total salaries and benefits of $503,000. On the operational side, you'll see here, again, it's much less on this side, $6,195 for supplies, $350 for services, for $6,545. Again, there are special education expenditures that do fall central. And so just a summary of the three side by side here on the special education side. Total FTEs at 19.87, total expenditures of 1.73. Moving into department budgets on the county office, we see the child development state preschool. This is out of Fund 12. This will be the FTE of 9.06. In here, we do have 0.25 of an administrator. 8.8125 are all classified staff. And so the total salaries and benefits is $494,000.
This is another one of those funds like on the district side with adult ed and cafeteria, right? That is strictly for state preschool, cannot be used for other things.
And so for operational expenditures, you see there is some allocation of extra time overtime, 25,250 and then 7,537 for benefits associated with those. We have supplies of 319,670 and services of 64,221. This does not have any kind of utilities built in. There is a significant allocation, but again, this is just due to we have, this is specialized grant funding, as Jared had kind of noted, so it can only be used here. Then we have our Expanded Learning Opportunities Program, ELOP. From an FTE standpoint, we have 34.28 FTE, total salaries and benefits of a little over $2 million. In that, we actually have 1.75 administrators.
Are these people, generally speaking, certificated or classified?
The 32.53 are classified, so this is generally classified staff.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And then we have total operational expenditures here with some extra time overtime of about $137,600, associated benefits of $41K, supplies of $254, services of $69,200. In here, I actually have an allocation of food that they provide to the expanded learning program. That's about $50K of that. They did purchase Sammy Circuit this year, which is being utilized, I believe, throughout the district, as well as this expanded learning opportunities program. They have a youth fitness contractor, as well as other miscellaneous supplies they use to support this program. Again, this is Fund 12, and it has to be spent in that sense. Total positional and operational expenditures for this program is $2.565 million. Business office on the county office side is 1.45 FTE total. Here there is 0.15 administrators or management. And there is 1 confidential and 0.3 classified. And so total salaries and benefits here is $169,591. So then on the operational side, we see it's $18,750 overall, just missed supplies and services that are business essential.
I have a question.
Yeah.
It popped into my head when you were talking about programs in the previous slide. But then I guess it's a question that is probably broader regarding programs that we use county and district side. Have you guys looked to see if there's unnecessary programs? I hate to use that word, but like, ooh, two people use it, or, because I know certain specialists like certain programs. Has anybody ever been like, yo, this is the program, like, we got to use it. We're spending too much money on 324 different programs.
Yeah, I know this last year as a part of the fiscal stabilization plan, we definitely took a hard look, just specifically at software.
Right.
There were other pieces too. It's just that one I just comes to mind offhand here. So we have done things like that. And then I guess, are you also referring to other things as like structural programs, like the ELOP program in general, or?
Everything in general, because I think even one of the other board members had asked a question about maybe Aries or Parent Square or some of the other programs that we use throughout the district. Just in general, everything. Like, are we just doing too much? Have we looked at that yet?
Yeah, and we did spend a lot of time, especially as we did this budget build, looking at redundancies. So where do we have duplications?
That's a good word, right.
So, so yes, that is definitely coming to evaluation. And there's always need for further in that sense too. I would say you're never done evaluating that. So when you look at programs, whether it is software or whether it's even structurally in terms of our expanded learning, or that's just an example. This one's funded by the state pretty significantly. Right. But in looking at all that, absolutely, I would say that we're always looking at that, and that's why we're having these conversations too, to further look at that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So I went to this one here. So then educational services, we have 9.55 total FTE here. And then we do have salaries and benefits of $969,839. In this particular one, we have 3.65 administrators. And quite a bit of that, as you can see, is, well, it's a lot of categorical and grant-funded initiatives. There is 1.15 confidential staff. There is 1 teacher. And then there is 3.75 classified staff in this mix. And then on the operational expenditures, again, this is influenced by a degree of a lot of grant funds. So we see a total operation expenditures of $543,403. And then Patty, I'm going to turn to you again if you want to comment on some of the programs.
Again, a lot of these in ed services are going to be comprised of grants. That's why you'll see them heavy in the categorical funds, because they can only be spent on their intended purpose, what the grant was written for. But on the county side, we have some more of the educator effectiveness, UPK grant, the HETAC, the CYBHI. These are all grants you guys have heard about over the year. The MSCS grant is one that we got to pay for our Renaissance, that 5-year program, is that math, science, and computer science grant that we used. That lives in this total as well. TUPE and our homeless grant lives in this particular category. So a predominance of our grants live on the county side, and they live in our categorical funds right there.
Perfect. So overall for educational...
Can I ask a question? I'm sorry I had this question earlier as well, but I just didn't know how to structure it. Why is grant money in this?
A lot of times, the way the grants are structured, they would be given to a county office to distribute to particular school districts. In our case, they just come to us, and then we send them to the other side of the house. But in larger areas, the county office would be the one that goes after that grant money and then distributes it out to the districts. Did I answer your question, James?
Kind of. Maybe it's just I'm confused with what grant money is.
So this doesn't show our income from the grant. This just shows the expense of how we're spending it, right?
Correct.
And so that might, if we had the income piece, that might help us better understand how much we're really spending when it comes to grants.
Yeah, and part of this too, the hope was to break this out around departments. And so we could focus it around grants, and then that's a different project too. So it's where here we're looking at it more of, well, educational services kind of is the one who oversees and manages the grants. That's why it falls under that department At least that's how we had determined to share it this way. We could have separated it out to say that each one of those grants is its own department, but in reality, a lot of those people are the same people who manage it and run it. So that's where we put the concept together here, to have it all under ed services as opposed to individual grants.
I'm gonna go with there's no such thing as a dumb question right now.
Come on, I was a teacher for 23 years.
Is
No
is
such
spending
thing.
grant money truly a hit on us? Like, I don't know. Am I looking at it weird?
You could say one of two ways. I mean, obviously the grant is toward an initiative.
I just don't understand why it's in here though. That's all. Maybe I'm just.
I think because from an accounting standpoint, and I'm oversimplifying it, so I'm not going to look this way because Robert's going to look at me and say seriously. It's money that comes in and goes out. So
Okay.
as it comes in, it goes out. So he's showing all of the money that goes out.
Is it a true account for what we got and what we're spending and?
What's what we have budgeted to spend this year. So in some cases, we have more revenue that came in for that specific grant, but we're only planning to spend X amount of it this year.
Okay.
When we can, we try to, when the grant allows for it, we try to stretch it as far as we can. Some grants have deadlines and have to be spent out by a certain day, a drop dead date, so then we have to spend it all. And occasionally, sometimes we have to send back money because we can't spend it in the time for what they're telling us it has to be spent for.
Okay.
So rather than find ways to spend it that aren't working for our programs.
Would a question I should ask, is grant money being counted as revenue?
Well, it would be in the time that we received it, yes.
But that's that distinction between general fund and categorical, right? So when we're, the goal was to put everything on the table. So these are grants that bring in a specific categorical revenue that then has a categorical expenditure that goes with it. So if the grant didn't exist, then if there's employees in those positions or whatever it might be, then those positions wouldn't exist. And so, a couple of our biggest grants are CTE for career technical education and the CYBHI, which falls under our community and school integration grant run by our director, Amanda Avila, who's given multiple presentations here.
Okay.
So they're not directly tied to helping any sort of like budget concerns on how to solve these other issues that we're talking about, but it is part of the bigger picture on money that comes in and goes out.
Okay. I think you are picking up what I'm putting down with what you just said prior. Say that again.
These monies aren't going to be part of the solution to the problems we've been discussing.
Okay.
Because they're run, you can almost look at them as their each own self-sustaining entity. It's similar to what's confusing sometimes about the way funding comes in is like we have like cafeteria fund, an adult ed fund, and we have the child development fund, right? Those run outside the general fund. But then you also have categorical funds that run inside the general fund. So they look like they're part of Fund 1 because they are, but how they get spent is still very restricted. So it's not, so you always look at your general fund as unrestricted and restricted general fund money. And so on all these charts, what we're basically tried to simplify it down to was if it's under the categorical or other fund, it means that money was restricted to only be spent on those purposes. If it's under general fund, then it's more unrestricted general fund that could be spent on a variety of things.
So if you're talking about looking for solutions to things and what we can get rid of, what we can keep, what we can do with all this stuff, essentially if it's in a categorical or other fund, it's going to be probably something we're not going to be able to like really mess around with. So it must, okay, all right.
However, we do use categorical funds to help us multi-fund people, right? And so we have a position that exists and they may not do 100% of their job in that particular grant, but we can pay a portion of their salary with the grant. So there are ways to use that money to help general fund expenditures, unrestricted general fund expenditures. But for the most part, if we didn't have the grant, then those positions and those programs wouldn't exist.
Okay.
I'm wondering if, like, on our next stage of this, where you add the revenue, if there's a way to add another column or something, just to kind of distinguish that this is grant. And
well, I think, Shane, to go with that, kind of what I think what Robert was alluding to was maybe the next time instead of looking at it by department, because the charge for this meeting was department and school, we could also just look at it by grant instead of saying, oh, this is ed services or this is that. It's like, well, here's the career technical education grant. Here's
Yeah,
the
so-
revenue, and here's everything we're planning on spending out of that grant. Here's the school and community integration grant, the revenue, and here's what we're spending on it. Is that kind of what you're?
Yeah, just something just to give it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Clear up the confusion as far as what it is, whether it's a footnote or another column or just a little bit more of a description on what where it's going and where it came from.
We'll look at how to put that together.
Yeah, asterisk all over.
Okay, so tell me if I got this right. If it's in the general fund, we might be able to manipulate that money elsewhere. If it's in the categorical other fund, that money is allocated to where it's going to go, and that's where it's going to stay.
I mean, I would comment and say it's less likely to be able to use. There might be some circumstances where we could, but it just depends. But I would
Let's just go with.
Another way to say it is everything in categorical, there are strings attached.
There are, yeah.
So we can analyze it and say, well, could we attach this to something else and help provide relief somewhere else? We can analyze each one of those categories to see if there's a way to spend more. But a lot of times that's what, we're already doing anyway. Whereas unrestricted can be a little bit misleading. Like we still have restrictions on how we spend our money, right? But as far as like unrestricted goes, that's more of a local control. We decide if it's going to be spent on maintenance or salaries or classified staff or whatever you might decide. There's more freedom within those categories to then spend that money.
And then moving on to human resources here, we see 0.75 total FTE for HR. In that, we have 0.15, that's administrator, 0.6, that's confidential. Total salaries and benefits for that is $95,193. On the expenditures side, we're looking at $4,900. And it says categorical, but I can guarantee you that's on the wrong side. That would be general fund. So it's the same thing as before, though. It's fingerprints, TB, testing, other employment requirements here. So overall, for total positions and operational expenditures, it's 100,000, little over it. That's it. On the maintenance side, we see 0.4 total FTE. This includes 0.15 of a director and 0.25 of classified. Total salaries and benefits here is $44,103. And then maintenance and operations expenditures come in total at $40,850. Again, it's just maintenance repairs, but it's significantly less on the county side. So $84,953 overall for positional and operational expenditures. For the superintendent's office, we see 0.15. Total salaries and benefits here is $21,029. The 0.15 is confidential. And then the operational expenditures come in at $31,075 with similar things as before. There are various services and supplies that come into play for general operations here within the superintendent's office. On the technology standpoint, we have 0.65 total FTE, salaries and benefits at $102,000. Here we have 0.5 of the administrator. That was the unique one at 0.5. We have 0.15 of confidential staff here. And then this is barely anything. They have one software piece that comes in on the county side for $400. So $102,799. Special education, we see 12.20. Again, this comes with the caveat of we do have some special education staff that do not have a home at one location. So these are the designated instructional services positions in many cases where they end up here as a part of the special education department where they do provide services throughout the district. The total administrators here is 2 FTE. There's 0.15 confidential. There are 7 teachers and 2 service providers.
And this does not include the contracted out additional services.
Does not. Yeah, you'll see that on the next allocation. And so then when you look at the operational side, we see extra time overtime allocation of 184. That's district-wide in a lot of cases for any extra time overtime teachers need, or other staff. If it's IEP related, we usually allocate it here, and those pieces as they need to fill in. Supplies come in at 66,437. There are sub costs too that come in extra time overtime. Sorry, I didn't mention that piece. And then services of the 2.97, and we'll dig a little deeper into services here in a second with the next slide. But the total positional and operational expenditures is 4.9, roughly $5 million. In looking at special education a little bit more expanded, when you look at their services, the contractor is 1.753 that we have allocated there. NPS, NPA costs of 852,000. Medi-Cal is 120,000. That's a specific Medi-Cal reimbursement that we get that we then allocate back toward different service providers to have a little extra money. We do some various projects that are voted on by the Medi-Cal committee. I don't know if you want collaborative, thank you. And so things like that fall into place.
So NPS, NPA, that's the total cost of all of our students attending non-public schools? Is that what that is, or is that?
That's the budgeted cost for this year.
Okay.
So then we do have a little bit of utilities that do hit on this side here, the 13,005, and then the other of 232, which I did not put any notes for that, but we do have the other there. And then in terms of special education contractors, I broke it out even more. So we see the 1.7, so I just want to give more context on that. One of the areas that we're really short on is with regards to speech, and obviously we've seen that with the vacancy allocations. And so you see here we have 1.5 allocated towards speech specifically in terms of contractors. Occupational therapies at 140,000, physical therapy at 60,000, assistive tech at 37,000, and then we just have other contractors too for other minor things. Yeah. Yes.
NPA stands for non-public agency. I think so. There is I think one of the things that we have to be very cautious of when we start to talk about students that are in non-public school, we have very few students. They are easily identifiable. So I would just ask for, some more specificity in regards to your question. I just want to be careful and cautious not to identify any particular individual student. But that line item does highlight, so non-public schools are actual school sites that then we enter into agreements in order to serve students that have been deemed that they cannot access their education on our school sites and that they need a higher level of support. Non-public agency doesn't necessarily have a school site that then they are serving our students. So that's an example of us contracting with a organization that only hires speech and language pathologists, and then they deploy them or make them available online for our students on our school sites to utilize. So they're often the NPS/NPA, it's often used that way because the certification through the Department of Education treats them the same. But for us, it's a very different relationship, and it's a very different student population that they're serving. We have less than 20 students. Maybe I could answer it that way. We have less than 20 students that are being serviced at a It can look like, it kind of depends on the arrangement with the school site. So sometimes they have transportation that then we can contract for. In certain circumstances, we work with our transportation team in order to provide transportation to the site. And in some circumstances, we have families that they have a preference in order to provide their students with transportation and a means. So then we offer them mileage reimbursement for doing so.
All right, thank you.
So then moving on to extensive support needs, and I'm going to caveat this slide. I found that it wasn't rolling up correctly. So there's actually, it shows 22.16 FTE. There are actually 34.86 FTE. So we will get that corrected when we go for the next go around here. We didn't assign any operational expenditures to that. Much of that is funded out of the special education department as a whole. We don't call it out specifically for the ESN classrooms. Then in workability, we have
I'm sorry, just real quick, Mr. Norton, on the 34.86
Yes.
Extensive support needs, how many of those are certificated positions?
Certificated is 9.
Thank you.
25.81 classified, 0.05 administrators. And then with workability, it is 1.88 total FTE. There are no administrators here. All 1.88 are classified employees. There is 127,149 total salaries and benefits. And the extra time overtime allocations are here as well. Their operational costs for supplies and services do hit the special education fund as well. What is notable here is the 18,563 we see for extra time
Robert,
overtime.
I'm just gonna pause you real quick. We need to extend the time. Can I just get a motion to extend the time by probably 30 minutes? I think.
I'll make a motion that we extend our time. How long? 15?
30.
30 minutes?
Second.
The motion, Peter?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Shane?
Yes.
James?
Aye.
I'm also a yes. Thank you.
So on the comment here, I wanted to also make the notable thing for extra time overtime that's listed there. That's actually student salaries as a part of the workability program. So it's not the staff themselves. This is for the students that are making the funds as part of this program. So the total operational and positional cost here is 146,267. So then in terms of central budgets, we have, again, a big top line there with transfers. This actually is where the County Office of Education gets $243,000 toward transportation that then gets sent back over to the district, since the district provides the transportation for the county office. A couple other transfers, the county office also receives $94,000 in forest reserve revenue. So that then gets transferred out of what is called Fund 16, which is where it's held, and goes a portion of it to the county and a portion of it to the district. It's very unique in that sense. And then there's also the special.
So really quickly, sorry, that didn't make sense. So what we're saying is that the district side gives money to the county side for transportation.
The county side in this case gives money to the district for transportation. It's a part of the LCFF add-on
Okay.
that it receives.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then is there money sent back? The county?
So they're all different purposes, and that's where it gets really interesting.
Right.
It's because the district then sends money to the county for special education.
Special education
services,
yeah, right.
As well as ELOP program, as well
Okay.
as other things.
Okay.
It's a fun interplay. If we were two separate districts and counties, which a lot are,
Sure.
this is where that interplay makes more sense.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And what's really unfortunate too, I just want to add this caveat, is the transfers end up hitting as an expense really on both sides. What I mean by that is we send the money over, it hits an expense here, but then we get the revenue on the district side and it's also an expense there, but it's the allocation of what we're using it for, but it hits both sides, and that ends also toward our minimum reserve threshold every year. So on the district side, there was $4 million that we had in transfers when you put it all together. Here we see another 377. It's a weird interplay.
Okay, so it kind of makes our budget look
If you
more?
add, let me try this. If
Yeah.
you add if you just go the biggest of numbers, total district expenditures, total county expenditures, if you added those two numbers together, it would look like we spend X amount of dollars. It's actually not true, because the transfers that he mentioned are counted as expenses for both entities.
And
So like
revenue.
So it
$4
looks
million
like
got counted twice.
So it looks like we spent 8, but we only spent 4.
Correct.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that would confuse a lot of people. Got it.
Yes.
I think.
Where's this $4 million transfer number coming from?
On the district side presentation, the central department budget, it was that last side, it's the first two lines of the
So
last.
you're counting the transfers and the debt payments?
No. So you printed one out, I'm assuming?
I did.
Yeah,
You
I
did.
found that one line was missing, and so that's where I added it in, yeah. But that's why I was on there.
So it's not 2.3 transfers, it's 4?
It's, yeah, combined, it ends up being 4.4, basically.
So is there another 2 million in the categories box that's not there?
It's in the categorical other fund that's not there. It's ELOP specific, and then special education preschool intervention.
Okay, so I just have an old copy right here.
You do, yeah. I had to update it very last minute because I caught it was missing. And so I added that caveat when we got to the slide. But obviously, yes, you
I
have
say
it.
old copy yesterday.
Oh, yeah, no, I caught it
So
today.
4 million we transfer to county, and then they send us back 243.
Basically, yeah.
So that's almost 500,000 that's counted as expenses that really aren't.
Well, it's, I mean, it's,
I mean, if we're sending,
Yeah.
we're sending 4, but we're getting 243 back, and it's counted on both sides.
All of it's counted twice, so it's
Yeah.
gonna be 8 million.
Yeah, all of it gets counted twice. The 243 gets counted twice, and then the 4.4 gets counted twice.
So it looks like we have 8 million in
Well,
expenditures.
that doesn't make a lot of sense.
we also
Yeah,
have
I know.
another thing within here, which is a stirs on behalf, which is even a whole more unique thing, where literally we never see the money. It stays with the state, but we book the revenue and the expenses if we received it. That's a whole different for another day. We will get into that on interims or unaudited actuals, but
So do we do that because we've just been doing it forever, or is there a reason? Can it
we
be
have to.
stopped? Can it be, so it has to be?
I'll do my best to explain this on behalf, if Robert wants me to. So essentially what it is when the STRS numbers about 10 years ago started climbing and STRS was upside down, and they started requiring districts to pay more, and they just kept increasing it a few percentage points every single year to the point where now it's almost 20% per certificated employee. What the state was doing was taking money and putting it towards STRS directly. And it never actually, so to keep everyone from having, this is what we were told, to keep everyone from paying more towards STRS. So then in the state accounting of it all, they want us to show that a portion of that money was ours, even though we never actually saw it. And so what you actually have to do is a STRS calculation of your percentage of all the STRS contributions across the entire state of California. So there's this huge table, and you look up Amador, and it's like Amador pays 0.00312% of STRS for the whole state. They take the STRS number that they contributed outside of giving us the money, and then on our books, they make us book it as a revenue and an expenditure. Never actually saw the cash. It went directly to STRS. Did I thoroughly confuse you?
No, my brain was tracking the conversation prior to that. With the millions that we swap
between the sites.
Between sites.
Correct.
Do we do that because we've been just doing it forever? Or do
So
we
that
do
has to do with how
because-
a lot of it has to do with how we structured our departments, right? And so some of this goes back to 2020. There was that special education study group that got together, and we did the special education transfer. If some people here remember.
I remember.
Getting nods and shakes. Where we made some determinations. What we determined, the transfer was even bigger back then. All special education staff were employed by the county, even though they were educating district students. So the determination at that time was made to move all mild, moderate
Right.
certificated staff.
I remember that.
And the instructional aides, the classified employees that go with them, they transferred to the district. Then, to create better efficiencies, the determination was made to combine the transportation department to only be district. Because we had one transportation department, but we had county bus drivers and we had district bus drivers. And so then that was all negotiated with our labor unions and we made those transfers of those employees. However, a large portion of employee positions for special education still sit with the county office, okay? And so in the past, it had been looked through as a lens of, well, the district is supporting the county budget. That is not the way to look at it, okay? Because the county is providing special education services to district students. It shows up for us as a transfer because we're a single district county. If we were in a multi-district county, the county would run specialized programs, like even more specialized special education programs. We would send students there and they would bill us for that. We don't operate that way because while we're two agencies, we can still in some ways operate as one. So instead, we transfer that money over. In the end, I think the way we're set up is a good thing. Yes, it gets counted twice as an expense. It slightly increases our reserve threshold requirements because those monies get counted twice. But for a lot of things, what we do, and I'll speak specifically of SEEK and CSEA 827, it makes sense to have all of those positions as county office positions dealing with extensive support needs, designated instructional services, and then the classified staff that supports those programs.
So the expense gets counted twice. Does that mean the revenue also gets counted and it balances out, and we haven't been flagged on this by the state or anybody else? It makes sense to somebody who knows more about these numbers than I do, yes?
Yeah, and this is part of where in like the state analysis, they used to group us regionally on who would analyze our budgets. A few years ago, the state changed and they have one analyst that looks at all the singles so that they have a better understanding of all these little interplays that happen in a single district county versus a multi-district.
What I'm saying is we are following best accounting practices
Absolutely.
as prescribed. Okay.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. I think we're good.
Okay, so central services, one of the major ones here that makes up the bulk of the 292 is our frontline software. That's not only our accounting software, it's also our absence reporting, it's getting subs, timesheets, and a few other services, 5 maps, things like that. So it's one system that does quite a bit of stuff for us here centrally. It also includes the audit that's on the county side and then other various centralized memberships that we have. We do have that self-insured expense. That's tied to the health insurance pieces with the expected claims that we are expecting for overages here on the county side. As it goes for insurance, this again is that property and liability. It's only $59,000 here on the county side. AB 218 is $13,000 on the county side. We do have some debt payments. We again have a couple of buses that we're finishing off here. Those are about $60,000 a year. Central, what else there? Yeah, central utility. So again, what it costs to run some of the facilities that we have for our county side. Legal expenditures are just $16,000, and then scholarships are $2,816. And any questions?
I don't have any further questions on here. I think all of the same, for me anyways, all the same comments apply to this. So I won't go into the nitty gritty with all those, but thank you for the presentation again. And this is quite complex, so go ahead.
No questions, no comments.
I would just say the same questions, this report versus last report, or same requests, not questions.
Shane, anything further? No? Okay.
Same.
James?
Yep, same.
Okay. With that, then we will just move into our board reports. Mr. Critchfield?
Yeah, just the same thing I said on the county meeting. We have a lot of work to do and everything is on the table. So we have some serious decisions to make to figure this out. That's all.
Okay. Peter?
No further report. I just do hope that we strive to work closely with our partners at every level and ensure that, and I know our relationship as a board is different when it comes to personnel in the county side, and we're still learning and understanding that. I get that piece, but I just hope that we choose to work closely with our partners, certificated, classified, everybody, and come up with solutions together and not just make decisions and say this is the way it is.
No report.
Okay, Shane?
Just to encourage all the parties able to come together and find a solution.
James?
Nothing to report.
I don't have any further report. I will just kind of reiterate that this was kind of the first time, I think, maybe in the district's history. I don't know. I don't know that far back, but at least in recent history that I know of, we have not done this. I think that this would be a good practice going forward to continue doing this potentially on a yearly basis. Again, I know that this was a rough draft. This is the first time clearly Robert's ever been asked to do this. So please, you know, maybe show him a little grace. But I thought that it was a good starting point for all of this. And so I really appreciate all the hard work that you put into this because this was a lot of work. And so I'm just gonna leave it at that. And we will, our next meeting again is also tomorrow, immediately following the district meeting. So I'm sure that I will see everyone there. Okay, and we are adjourned.